Hello, everyone. It's time for the very last Remnants of Filth stream. I cannot believe it. How's everyone doing? How are you feeling? Hi, Blue. Hi, Nina. I still can't believe we're already here. We are at the end. Um, yeah, this has been so cool, and I know there are Danmei series that have fewer volumes, but compared to some things that, like, I've been reading, obviously compared to other Meatbun, I guess this is relatively short. Um, or somewhere in the middle. I don't know, but I'm like, wow, I can't believe we're already finishing something. And then I'm looking at what we're going to be reading ahead, and I'm like, oh, everything else is longer than this. Hi, Cookie. Um, I am not watching Kill to Love yet, but I'm planning on it. I'm very excited about it. Tina, yeah, I've really enjoyed it too. And I know that Meatbun considers it like her weakest link. And that's only, I mean, out of three things, only one other, have I read. I've read some of Arha. So I haven't yet read Case File, so I can't compare it to that. But like even being her weakest link, it's still so good. Oh, Henry, Kill to Love is this new, like, uncensored, uh, Chinese, like, BL drama, and it's like a historical drama. Um, I think there's some kind of palace intrigue, assassin, like, thing going on, or something political. I don't really know what it's about, but it looks really good. Yeah. I'm excited about it. When I was looking it up on my drama list, said it was from Singapore, so they must have like the production company must be out of Singapore, so they could like get out of censorship stuff. I guess that's how they did it. Prince X Assassin theme. Yeah, it looks. Oh, okay. Thank you. It was filmed in Singapore. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I really want to watch it. It looks very good. There were a couple of trailers that came out and they look very promising. Um, so we are we are here. Also, I think I figured something out. Before I start. Blue, you were telling me about the extra and how there was like an extra that was just for the Seven Seas volume and wasn't like printed anywhere before. But then when I was trying to find a fan TL with the extra that's not in this book, I found the extra that we're currently reading and a different fan TL, and I was really confused about it. And then finally, I think I figured it out. I think the exclusive for the Seven Seas edition is not the extra. I think it's the afterword from Meatbun, which I am going to be reading. It's just like a little letter at the end of the book, and she kind of is talking about like her experience writing this book, and I think she wanted to like release a new little afterword like before it was published with Seven Seas in English. So, yeah, I'll be reading that too. So we have finished this book, another extra from a fan TL, and the afterword that we're all doing today. Um, and no, it's totally understandable, Blue, because it was like, oh, there's an exclusive afterword, and I don't know if it's common for Danmei authors to like put afterwards in official publications, but I can totally understand being like, oh, another extra, like that makes sense. Um, so we we just found out that that seamstress has been dead for 7 days, or she was dead for 7 days when they met her. And this whole time I was thinking that she's like very suspicious, but now I'm wondering if someone was like controlling her, or she could be a vengeful ghost or something like that. But we are going to find out. Um, yeah, Blue, there's one fan TL that has this extra in it, and it doesn't have Murong Lian's diary. And then the other fan TL that you sent me had Murong Lian's diary, and it doesn't have this extra. So probably just difference in, you know, who translated what, and, you know, that stuff happens all the time. So, we are on page 261 for chapter 14. Henry, I love this trope. I think we should call it "The Call is Coming from Inside the Coffin." It's a... I've seen this trope so many times. Like, they were actually dead. But yeah, I love it too. It's great. That's a very good name for it. The room was terrifyingly quiet. After a long pause, Gumong asked slowly, "You're saying that Miss Su passed away before we met her?" Moshi inclined his head. "It was a suicide." Gumong was silent for a moment. Did he say why? The innkeeper said an accident befell her family. Her parents passed in close succession. He thought she probably took her own life out of heartbreak, said Moshi. That family also had a son, but he got married a long time ago. Later, his relationship with the family deteriorated. He didn't even come back to the village after his parents fell sick. So Miss Su had an older brother. They weren't related by blood. Their parents hadn't been in the best of health these past few years, and Miss Su looked after them alone the whole time. They had no other relatives. After Miss Su died, there was no one left. It fell to the next-door neighbors to deal with her corpse. Gumong lowered his lashes, seemingly at a loss. But that day, the house looked like a normal family dwelling, not a place of mourning where someone had just passed. I know, said Moshi. Suicide is inauspicious, so the neighbors buried her without the rites, and no one wanted to tidy the items in the house. Those damasks and brocades ordered by the wives of government officials are still piled up in there. After the clients heard the seamstress died while working on them, they were worried about bad luck. No one wants them anymore. This might have been the most Moshi had said to him at one time since the day they'd met, but Gumong was in no mood to tease. The furrow in his brow grew deeper and deeper as he shook his head. We both saw her that night. I didn't notice anything odd about her. What about you? Did you find anything suspicious? No. Then it's really too strange. If she was a ghost, even if neither of us used any spells, could we have failed to notice entirely? I don't think we're that incompetent. I've thought of a few possibilities, said Moshi. Let's hear them. First, the person we saw that night wasn't the real Miss Su, but someone pretending to be her. How about the second? Second, Miss Su didn't actually die. For one reason or another, she made it look like she committed suicide, knowing no one would come tidy up after she died, and continued to hide in her house. And the third? Third, Miss Su really did die, and no one else entered the house. What we saw that night was indeed her ghost, but using some magic we don't yet understand, she hid her supernatural energy extremely well, such that without careful examination, we would find her no different from a living person. Nodding, Gumong asked, "Is there a fourth?" I was just going to say, you know how she was like, the dog bit me? What if she is someone impersonating Miss Su and the dog bit her and was disobedient because she's not actually Miss Su? No, Moshi said. But I have something else to tell you. Gumong sighed. Damn, you've managed to make so much progress, even on bed rest. You poor injured thing. Go ahead. What else have you got? It's about the missing couple Qianling Elder ordered us to investigate. Lin Yun and Bai Roxia. Moshi paused, his expression turning grave. That Lin Yun is Miss Su's elder brother. What? Gumong's mouth fell open in shock. Lin Yun and Miss Su are siblings? But why is one of them surnamed Lin and the other Su? The innkeeper explained it, Moshi replied. The embroidery house we stayed at was called Lin's Sewing. It was run by a couple named Lin for many years, and Lin Yun was their only son. Su Chao was the daughter of a family they were friends with. He paused. Do you remember how Su Chao said there's lots of diseased miasma in this village, and people often fall ill and die? Gumong nodded again. I do. Su Chao's birth parents died this way when she was 4 or 5. The Lin couple couldn't stand to see her orphaned, so they took her in. You could accurately say Su Chao was Lin Yun's adopted sister. Moshi closed his eyes before continuing. The Lin couple's disappearance and Miss Su's suicide both occurred this month. I don't think this can be coincidence. Neither do I, mumbled Gumong. Moshi looked up. One more thing. I don't think it's true that you went out earlier just to wander around. That's right, neither do... Gumong mindlessly agreed before registering Moshi's words. He froze, black lashes quivering as he shot Moshi a hesitant look. Oh, there's art. Not looking at that yet. Moshi's arms were crossed, as were his long legs. Wait, we got a drink because Moshi's long legs were mentioned. He pinned Gumong with an imperious stare. Get out that ghost puppet hidden in your Qian-kun pouch. Gumong's expression shifted several times, flashing like a festival lantern. Finally, he put on a shamelessly mischievous smile, although his feet were anxiously grinding into the ground. Feigning obliviousness, he asked, What? The ghost puppet. The one that contains the resentful spirit buried beneath the ancient peach tree. You don't need to hide it anymore. I knew you were lying to me as soon as I woke up. There was nothing Gumong could say in his own defense. He smiled helplessly. Shidi, look at you. Those keen eyes of yours can see through anything. Aha, haha. Moshi's reply was icy. It possessed me for such a long time It possessed me for such a long while last night. Did you really think I couldn't sense it? Gumong had no choice but to reach for his Qian-kun pouch and empty its contents onto the table. A pile of talismans and weapons came clattering out, alongside a mountain of milk candies and barley taffy wrappers, but there was no sign of the wooden figurine. Gumong sighed, grabbing the corners of the pouch and shaking it. There's no point in hiding. Hurry on out and offer up your head in apology to young Master Mo. At last, the wooden figurine let go of the pouch and fell out, its wooden limbs clacking against the table. It lay listlessly on the tabletop for a beat, then spun onto its knees and started slamming its wooden head into the table, the thunk, 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 loud enough to rattle the sky. Young master, spare me. I don't want to go to the 1st or the 18th floor of the demon-suppressing tower. Any other floors we can discuss. Young master, you're young and fresh, heroic and powerful, prim and proper. Okay, now we get to see the art. Excellent. This is exactly what we needed. I think we're getting everything that we wanted out of this extra. Funny art, sexy art, Hopefully some wholesome art. Hopefully nothing, you know, too angsty. Do not flatter Moshi Cucumber. Stop it, said Moshi. But how could the wooden figurine stop? Holding fast to the principle of, if 1,000 isn't enough, then 10,000 might suffice. If I slam my head till the world ends, I might keep my sad little life. It banged its head harder against the table, the noise so loud it woke the guests in the next room over. Their disgruntled neighbors threw something at the wall, which made contact with an audible bang. Shameless lovebirds, can't you go at it a little more quietly? Your bed's rocking so loud. Aren't you scared it'll collapse? Both Gumong and the figurine were rendered mute. Black chi wreathed Moshi's face. He slammed his hand wrapped like a zongzi on the table, and the wooden figurine collapsed in a trembling heap. It shot a glance at Moshi's injured hand, watching blood seep through the snowy gauze, then at Moshi's dark expression, his eyes as menacing as a blade tempered in flame. Moshi clenched his jaw. Are you incapable of understanding human speech? I'm not, young master. I'm sorry. Moshi didn't want to waste a breath more on it, so he looked up at Gumong. What did you get this thing to confess to? Nothing much. His eyes met Moshi's. Gumong hesitated for a moment, then sighed. Okay, never mind. Here's the deal. I was going to hide this from you and go alone with this doll to investigate what happened to Lin Yun and his wife. Moshi's gaze was sharp as a dagger, danger flickering in those dark eyes. Why? Gumong blinked. Do you even have to ask? It's my fault you got so badly hurt. Wouldn't I be a monster if I made you run around while I sat back and did nothing? Moshi stared at him in silence. After a turn or more, the tension seemed to bleed out from his muscles, and he turned away, his tone marginally less frosty. My injuries have nothing to do with you. It was my own carelessness. His profile was sharp and cold, still obstinate, his features somehow evoking the crisp chill of fallen snow. As Gumong looked at him, he sighed inwardly. This young man had an iron will. Moshi had already started the investigation on his own. If Gumong went to check out the embroidery shop without him, he'd end up insulting this young Master Mo. Ah, all right. I miscalculated. I'll tell you everything. Don't look at me like that anymore. It scares the hell out of me. He recounted the entirety of the day's earlier events to Moshi in detail. When he was done, he turned to the little wooden figurine. Where did you see Lin Yun's name? Do you still not remember? The wooden figurine shook its head, dejected, but assured them, I'm trying hard to remember right now. You'd better think a little faster, Moshi said frostily. Even though the doll was merely a piece of wood, it shivered. Shidi, I was planning to pay the embroidery shop a visit after dark tonight. You should come with me, but this time, no acting rashly. Can you promise me that? I can. Then let's pinky swear, he said, extending a hand. Moshi shot him a frigid look. Gumong aborted the gesture, discreetly using the hand to scratch at his face instead. The corners of his lips quirked up as he began to chuckle. Just as he was about to speak again, the little figurine yelped, Ah, heavens above! Two pairs of black eyes turned to him. Gumong's gentle and bright, Moshi's cold and icy. Caught between two such extremes, the wooden figurine choked a little, then carefully said, Xianzhang, I remembered where I saw Lin Yun's name. The strange trio trudged to a hill that served as a mass burial ground. A handful of villages around buried their dead here. It was dotted with the haphazard graves of nameless travelers who died far from home, criminals given the death penalty, and lonely beggars with no ancestral tombs. After I died, the people of Xinxiang City tossed me out here and buried me in a hole they dug for me. The little wooden figurine scrambled along the mountain path as it spoke. Later, my bones were moved to the ancient peach tree, but I returned here to wander around when I had the time. The yin energy here is really strong, very comforting. Where is Lin Yun's grave? Asked Moshi. We're almost there, just a little farther. His gravestone appeared about a month ago. People don't often make the trek here to visit the graves, and new gravestones are rare as well. Even a little wooden plaque like this one is unusual. I went to go look at it a bunch of times, and even sat on it to bask in the moonlight all night, the wooden figurine babbled. Fuck, I don't know how I managed to forget about it. Before long, they came to a gnarled date tree. The soil nearby had been freshly disturbed, and a crooked gravestone erected in front of the pile of dirt. 4 simple words were upon it. Here lies Lin Yun. Gumong and Moshi exchanged a glance. Moshi bent and pressed his hand to the grave, closing his eyes in concentration. Anything? Gumong asked as he rose. Moshi shook his head. No signs of transmogrification. I can't sense his soul at all. Generally, any ghosts cultivators could sense or summon were resentful spirits, or else the souls of the freshly deceased. Other ghostly souls would float toward the netherworld after their 7th day, en route to reincarnation. If Moshi couldn't sense him, Li Yun's soul had probably already passed on. Gumong thought a moment, then suggested, How about this? Why don't I try? At the confusion in Moshi's eyes, Gumong went on. Even though souls disappear after their 7th day, the corpse retains remnants of the deceased memories. In Yanbia Hall, we have a technique for manifesting this kind of afterimage. He paused. But it depends on the person. If, in life, the deceased carefully guarded their secrets, we won't be able to read them. But if Lin Yun had some things he didn't mind other people knowing about when he was alive... Gumong's gaze landed on that bare wooden plaque. He sat down by the grave. I'll try it and see, he said. But I'm not that good with this technique. I haven't mastered it yet. If you pull me out of it midway, my memories might get scrambled. So unless I open my eyes on my own, don't wake me up. Can we not have Gumong potentially get his memory scrambled in the extra? I didn't even think that was a possibility. Moshi agreed, and so Gumong formed the sigil with both hands and settled down cross-legged, slowly closing his eyes. Abandoned lies the body. Meaningless is the past. I knock on the door of this freshly dug grave and sit for the tale of the dead one's days. I ask to hear your thoughts, and I wish to see your memories. If the bones beneath the springs have any regrets, don't let the grass grow untended above your grave. As the final syllable drifted from his mouth, a light breeze stirred on the slope, as if countless whispering voices rose up from the soil and surged toward Gumong. The glow of blue spiritual flames enveloped Gumong. After a moment, the flames sank into his skin and vanished. Gumong's vision filled with light as his surroundings gradually brightened. He stood within Lin Yun's remaining memories. It was dusk. A 7 or 8-year-old boy was sobbing as he ran back to the embroidery shop. He was covered in mud, like an underfed monkey that had been rolling in a flooded rice paddy. Dad, Mom, wah. The woman at the loom stood up at his cry, and the man busy inside also poked his head out. As soon as she saw the boy's pathetic state, the woman laughed and berated him. You useless little brat. Did you pick a fight with Su Chao again? I didn't fight her. I just wanted her to go with me to the city to watch monkeys doing tricks. But she wouldn't listen to me. She said, the boy sniffled, then burst into fresh tears. She said making monkeys do tricks wasn't as fun as tricking me. She kicked me into the rice paddy and threw rocks at me. Recalling Moshi's tale from the innkeeper, Gumong thought to himself, this boy is probably Lin Yun, and these two would be Lin Yun's parents. The father laughed out loud. You're older than her, and a boy to boot, but every day you get chased around and beat up, then come home crying. Even I'm embarrassed for you. He mimed wiping tears off his own cheeks. The mother turned to glare at her husband. Enough. Can you stop with that talk? Come here, Yunar. Come with Mom to wash off in the back garden. Look at you, filthy all over. Su Chow's to blame, too. That little girl's as wild as a mountain bandit. Once her mom gets better, I'll give her a piece of my mind. How can you raise a girl like that? Who will marry her in the future? Blue, you're right. It is like the empathy spell. It's like Wei Wuxian's empathy. Still smiling, the father shot a glance at Lin Yun. It's fine as long as she's pretty. Don't you agree, son? Lin Yun choked, sneezing out a muddy bubble of snot. Gumong saw that his neck had flushed red under the mud. Someone had a prediction. Was that you, Blue? And they're yeah, I'm filing something away right now. Mother and son walked to the back garden, hand in hand. As if it had only just occurred to him, the father yelled after them, Hey, wifey, has our sis gotten any better? No, she was still lying in bed when I went to see her yesterday. If she was better, would Su Chow be running amok like a mountain monkey? In a while, I'll butcher a chicken and stew it. Why don't you bring it to their house to help them recover? Su Chow's dad's been run off his feet recently. He's always coughing when he talks. If both of them get sick, it'll be tough. The father laughed happily. Sure enough, the missus has got a sharp tongue but a kind heart. Fine, let me know when it's ready. I'll bring it to them. After a pause, he called out to his son. Hey, Yunar, why don't you bring it to Su Chow's house? Hi. Lin Yun's face was so hot it was practically shining through the mud. He said hesitantly, Fine, whatever. It's not like I'm scared of her. He followed his mother to the back garden and disappeared behind the door frame. Their surroundings darkened, then lit back up. When Gumong could see again, he found he was no longer in the embroidery shop, but on the outskirts of Lotus Village. It seemed not much time had passed. Lin Yun and his family were still dressed in summer clothes as they stood with their faces upturned beneath the searing sun. This was a funeral, or rather, 2 funerals. A girl younger than Lin Yun knelt, clad in the hemp robes of mourning, Su Chow. The robes dwarfed her small frame, enveloping her like cloth sacks as she wailed before the burial mounds, her skinny shoulders shaking. The villagers who'd come to help sighed and murmured. One of the madams wiped her tears, eyes filled with sympathy as she shook her head. Poor dear. She's just a child herself. Now that her parents are both gone, how will she get by? Ah, what could they have done? Falling sick with that kind of disease. Thank goodness the girl was still young and didn't help butchering that pig. Otherwise, she would have been infected by the sick animal's blood as well. Then all 3 of them would be gone. That little girl's fate is too hard. Within the crowd, Lin Yun looked up and pulled quietly on his mother's sleeve. Mom. His mother patted him on the head and tore her tearful gaze away from the little girl. She wiped at her eyes, then looked down and asked, What is it, Yunar? Why don't we bring Chow Mei home with us? He asked earnestly. Otherwise, where else can she go? Um, you and Papa were talking about it last night. I heard you. Mama, even though we're not rich, if we leave Chow Mei alone in her old house, with the rooms all empty, and her mom and dad gone, wouldn't it be too sad? Seeing his mother's hesitation, Lin Yun pressed. She can come live with us, can't she? She's clever and good with her hands. She can help you. If if you're worried there won't be enough food, I can eat a little less. His mother looked down at him through eyes glistening with tears. Lin Yun was close to begging. You really don't have to spend too much effort taking care of her. I can do it myself. His voice faded and the light dimmed again. But the wheels in Gumong's mind were turning. How strange. If the innkeeper was to be believed, Lin Yun had cut ties with his parents after he married. He'd sounded like a callous and unfilial son. But from what Gumong had seen, not only was Lin Yun not callous, he was exceptionally kind. He seemed to like his Su Chao Mei Mei very much, even if Su Chao didn't care much for him. What had happened? Before Gumong could think any further on it, the light around him began to swirl once more. This time, the scene didn't immediately solidify. All he could see were some faint and flickering images. And that is the end of the chapter. That is suspicious. A lot of things are suspicious here. Okay. We are on chapter 15. I said, I don't want to go check out the temple fair. I want Mom to teach me the plain weave. The girl's voice was soft, but unmistakably obstinate. You can go ahead without me. What's the point of going without you? Lin Yun muttered. Come on, I'll buy you a sugar painting. I don't want one. Humph, who wants to misbehave all day like you? Dad's already spent a month teaching you to prepare indigo dye, but you still can't do it on your own. She pulled a face. La la la, piggy brain. The scene changed once again. Gumong was looking at a dike covered in willows, bustling with people as a performance took place. Golden fireworks exploded raucously in the night sky, glittering motes spilling down like a brocade goldfish flicking its tail. Su Chao and Lin Yun, slightly older now, were sitting on a bridge, watching the fireworks in the sky and their reflection on the lake as dragonflies dipped low around them. Su Chao sat on the edge of the bridge, embroidered slippers swinging on her dangling feet. Her petal-soft lips were telling Lin Yun a joke, but she fell short of breath halfway through every sentence. She told her joke like this. Heh, let me tell you. Ha, once upon a time, there was a man, he... And then because... you know? And then he... oh heavens, it's so funny. I'm going to cry. She wiped at her beautiful eyes. Hey, how come you're not laughing? Lin Yun played along and put on a smile. Satisfied, Su Chao rubbed Lin Yun's head and said, That's more like it. Let me tell you another one. This one's even funnier. Their simple companionship flowed like running water. Before Gumong's eyes, the young man and the maiden grew older each time they appeared, like scenes in a shadow puppet play. Bit by bit, Gumong understood. In Lin Yun's memories, he'd always loved Su Chao, since childhood and all the way to his coming of age. But Su Chao had never returned his feelings. She'd joked with him, drunk with him, and shared her deepest secrets with him. She treated him as her closest companion on earth, but she never seemed to view him with anything more than familial affection. Blue, thank you. There were a lot of ha-ha-has that I didn't read, and I was like, how do I communicate this? We got another Meatbun het unrequited love. Yeah. Chow Mei, let's take a walk. It's such a nice day out. Don't work so hard. It'll be bad for your health if you wear yourself out. But Su Chow always said, not today. I'm just too busy. Why are you always working so much? It's not like we'll starve. She moved the shuttle and dipped her head to smile. I guess I've been poor for too long. She really had been. She neither had the foundation for cultivation, nor any wealth from her family. She could scrape by while she was healthy, but if she encountered any disease or disaster, someone like her would have no choice but to sit and await death with her hands tied. It wasn't as if panaceas didn't exist in this world. Within the healer's hall of Shenong Terrace in the capital, there stood neat rows of spiritual medicines that could cure all manner of diseases, immortal herbs that could lengthen lives, all at prices no ordinary civilian could ever hope to afford. With each generation, the people in this village died in droves before their time. It was a barren, sickly place where the simple accomplishment of surviving to the age of 40 was worth burning incense in thanks at your ancestors' graves. Su Chow understood this too well. She was haunted by an inexplicable urgency when she heard the cries of children sobbing helplessly as their parents passed. She found it harder and harder to put down the shuttle in her hand, as if the thin thread could save her life and all she could have and hold. For this reason, she willingly dipped her head at the rich young masters and smiled at the pretty mistresses. How about some new clothes? Our handiwork is excellent. She sought customers diligently, burying herself in her work at the loom as if she didn't know the meaning of weariness. Her embroidered shoes were the most beautiful of all, and popular with her customers. She found herself repeating the same sequence of movements all year long, kneeling before the customer, bending down, her fine hands cupping those precious feet as she patiently took their measurements. She was unluckier than Lin Yun, more precocious than Lin Yun, and stronger than Lin Yun, but she worried much, much more than Lin Yun. As the days wore on, she became increasingly stubborn, increasingly anxious. The last scene in this cascade of memories showed Su Chow arguing with Lin Yun. When will you get some sense in your head? She cried. What about you? When will you realize that I... The young man's lips quivered, those gentle eyes reddening. You what? All you do is play all day. What now? You can't even speak properly to me? Lin Yun looked as if he choked on a cold, stale, steamed bun. The red was no longer confined to his eyes, but spreading across his entire face. He flushed scarlet as he glared at her, furious and heartbroken. But he was still too weak. All of that anguish amounted to nothing more than him swallowing hard. Okay, he said at last, clumsy and embarrassed. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I've wasted your time. The scene crumbled as Gumong watched. They'd had the same argument too many times. Her furious shouts seemed to weave together like a boulder smashing into the sea, shattering those beautiful memories. That foam melted away, and darkness rose. When the vision became clear again, Su Chow's silhouette had disappeared. Lin Yun appeared alone in Chonghua's capital. He had a ratty cloth sack on his back and viewed the endless stream of carriages before him in panic. After standing blankly in place for a long time, he stepped into the throng on wobbly legs. Shopkeeper, are you hiring? Boss, do you need another hand? He spun like a top, painstakingly mustering the courage to enter each of those majestic shops of the capital looking for work. Every time he was berated and kicked out, his anxious stuttering became more pronounced. By the time he stuck his head in and looked around at the third dessert shop, Gumong could see his steps were unsteady. It happened that the servant manning the shop had no brain attached to his eyes and mistook him for a customer. Flour cakes for sale. Flour cakes. 8 treasures with red bean paste. Sesame, peanuts, almonds. Everything's there that ought to be. What can I get the young master? Lin Yun waved his hands frantically. I'm not a young master. At his serious and clumsy response, a few customers shot him sidelong glances between making their picks, finding it funny. The servant, still grinning, changed his sales pitch. Oh then, young lord, what would you like? The fresh steamed flour cakes are some of our best. Why not have some? Lin Yun grew even more fretful. He wanted to say, I'm not a young lord. I'm not buying flour cakes. But his tongue tangled, and what came out of his mouth was, I'm not a flour cake. I'm not buying young lords. He realized his mistake as soon as it was out, and the base of his neck instantly flushed. A maiden in a pink coat and a pleated skirt of almond yellow stood among the customers buying cakes. Hearing this, she burst into laughter, those beautiful eyes gazing at him with interest. Lin Yun glanced at this maiden in alarm, hopelessly flustered. He muttered, almost whispering, I just came to ask if the boss needs another hand. As soon as the servant heard this man was here to compete for his earnings, his expression changed. Get out. You can't tell the difference between a lord and a cake, but you want to take my damn job? If you're not buying, out with you. Lin Yun, shoulders hunched, hadn't walked far before he heard the soft tinkling of a jade pendant from behind. A crisp woman's voice called out to him. Hey you, wait a minute. Lin Yun turned. Upon seeing that it was the girl who'd burst into laughter inside the shop, he lowered his head and replied obediently, Hello, miss. The girl smiled. You're new to the capital, aren't you? Are you looking for work? Yes, miss. Where do you come from? Lotus Village. Oh, that's a bad place. The girl pressed her lips together. You came to earn some money? This time, Lin Yun didn't immediately reply. After a long silence, he said with difficulty and embarrassment, I. He bit his lip and braced himself, his voice low, as if speaking to himself as much as the girl. I came to the capital to make something of myself. When he finished, his earlobes seemed to glow red. He hung his head and waited for the girl to mock him. But he heard no words of ridicule, even after a long while. He cautiously glanced back up and found her looking at him with amusement and mild curiosity. Are you good with numbers? If you are, my family's shop happens to be opening a new location. I'll be managing that one, and I need someone to work on the accounts. You look like an honest man to me, and you're pretty interesting. She batted her lashes. Will you come? At this point, Gumong could piece together the rest. This girl must be the daughter of that wealthy merchant family in the capital, the Bai clan. In which case, this was Lin Yun's future wife, Bai Roxia. Yep. Yet this, too, was outside Gumong's expectations. Although the Bai clan wasn't of noble blood, they were powerful businessmen. They sourced treasures from all over the country for various cultivators, and in exchange, those cultivators sold them materials for magical implements at the lowest prices. As their success grew, the Bai clan had opened locations in cities all over Changhua and become well known among Changhua's commoners as well. Gumong had always been of the impression that the Bai clan was cold-blooded. A magical tool that could dispel sickness should have cost 100 cowries, but they insisted on selling it for more than 500. Those who could afford it would use it, and those who couldn't would die. In any event, there were no other shops that sold such tools to commoners. The YUWU clan and Medicine Master Zhang's manor only offered their wares to nobles. Gumong had assumed Bai Rosha was some kind of greedy shrew. He'd even guessed that the reason Lin Yun cut ties with his parents after marrying high into the Bai clan might have been because of this woman. He had puzzled over why the daughter of the Bai clan would lower herself to marry a penniless nobody. But as he watched, it gradually began to make sense. A poor, clumsy boy and the curious daughter of a rich family. As it was said, opposites attract. The scene shifted again, showing Gumong the days in which Bai Ruxia and Lin Yun went from getting to know each other to spending their time together, and from spending their time together to sharing their hearts with each other. Bai Ruxia was clever, kind, and loved to have fun. She was nothing like Su Chao. All the scenes with her were cast in a warm golden light and accompanied by her carefree and joyful laughter. Meanwhile, in Lin Yun's memories, that stubborn and flinty embroiderer rarely ever rested or showed tenderness. It wasn't that Su Chao wasn't kind. She would often use her silver from sewing to buy great piles of flatbread from street stalls and go door to door to distribute them to orphaned children. But Su Chao saw the hardships of life too clearly. Or perhaps she had no choice but to see them clearly, because she'd always been struggling against this kind of miserable suffering, to the point that she couldn't rest at all. Her silhouette seemed to be stitched into the loom. Her eyes shone with flames. If one looked at her from a distance, there seemed to be words carved deep into the lines of her face. I refuse to succumb. I will surpass you all. They were both beautiful flowers, but one was girdled with rows of thorns, while the other bloomed gently. Lin Yun had cupped that thorny flower for so long in hopes that it would blossom for him, but it remained a tightly rolled bud that never once unfurled its petals. Eventually, he could hold it no more. That's an image. Thank you, Meatbun. Uptown Girl. Henry is a member of the Bai clan. I can confirm we're cold-hearted. Oh my god. Everything settled like falling dust. Lin Yun and Bai Rosha were married, the night before the grand wedding, within the old house in Lotus Village. The fumbling Lin Yun was checking over those wedding gifts that, though sincerely given, seemed almost laughable to the Bai clan. Of course, his engagement to Bai Rosha hadn't been smooth sailing. Bai Rosha's parents had passed, and the current family patriarch was her elder brother. Her brother had expressed, in the most extreme terms, his scorn for his little sister's insistence on marrying this poor, stupid youth whose only good trait was his face. After his attempts at foiling them failed, he had furiously said, "Sister, you must be blind." "You're the one who's blind. He's such a cute dummy," Bairusha shot huffily back at her elder brother. "I have to watch you hatching your little schemes all day, currying favor with Medicine Master Jiang and the Yue clan. It's maddening. I like the simple and honest type." The elder Bai brother had replied icily, If you love simple-minded creatures so much, why don't you marry a pig?" Despite his protestations, he at last acquiesced to the wedding between his little sister and this penniless wretch. Still, he didn't leave off mocking his future brother-in-law. "I've always been curious. How thick must your skin be that you're shameless enough to take a woman of my Bai clan for a wife? Other than your delicate little face, is there anything about you worthy of mention?" Lin Yun thought Bai Gongze was being protective of his sister, so he stuttered back, red-faced. "Daga, my heart is sincere." The eldest brother Bai looked back at him in disgust. Wow, what an asset you'll be. Even till the day of his wedding, Lin Yun never understood that he was being scorned for his poverty. His parents were delighted, but they couldn't help worry. They disdained the betrothal gift earlier. Though you're going to live with them, you're still the one taking her as a wife. Do you think these gifts might be too little? His mother sighed. It still feels like a dream. The Bai clan might not be noble, but they're unimaginably lofty to us commoners. How did their daughter take a fancy to you? Mom, Yunar, do you think they might want to take your head and sell you off? Just as he was about to mumble another awkward reply, the patter of footsteps sounded on the stairs. Gumong looked up, along with the rest of the family, to see Su Chao descending with a box in her arms. Perhaps because it was too dim, or perhaps because Lin Yun's emotions were so complex he hadn't dared engrave Su Chao's face in his memory. Gumong couldn't see what expression she wore until she stepped out of the shadow. Su Chao was smiling. Why? That's not ominous at all. She smiled with that same boldness she had in the past. But now there seemed to be a rare gentleness in it. Okay, never mind, I guess. Her face glowed pink in the candlelight, heightening the beautiful delicacy of her features. Look at you. Didn't I tell you off for being lazy in the past? How embarrassing. You don't even have a decent gift for the bride at your own wedding. She berated him with a smile and pressed the beechwood box she held into his arms. Take it. Let me put some feathers in your cap, you dumb block of wood. He opened the box. Inside lay a splendid wedding gown, embroidered with gold and silver thread. Colorful butterflies danced across the fabric, spangled with beads and crushed jade. It was made from the finest Szechuan brocade, the silk soft as flowing water. What do you think? Isn't it pretty? Lin Yun stared dumbly. It took him a long beat to form any words. This is really expensive. Yep, I know it's expensive. I cleared out years of savings to afford it, Su Chao nodded, as if to say, don't mention it. We can't have you disgracing yourself. The Lin parents finally came back to their senses. Chao R, how could you? How much extra work did you take on to make this dress? Su Chao waved an impatient hand. Ah, that's enough. It doesn't matter. She slapped Lin Yun on the chest as she grinned. Our little Lindsay's going to be a young master of the Bai clan. Oh, I'm sorry. That should be Linzi. Our little Linza's going to be a young master of the Bai clan. There's a footnote. Z is an affectionate suffix meaning son or child. Why should I worry about the paltry price of some fabric? Hey, you'd better remember all the good I've done you, and then get young Mistress Bai to remember it too. She grew happier as she talked, glowing with delight. We've made it. In the future, we can enjoy the shade of a great old tree, haha. Lin Yun gazed at her silently, then looked back at the clothes in the box. Who knew how much time it had taken to place each exquisite stitch? Xiao Mei, if you're going to thank me like an outsider, save it. Su Chao put a hand over his mouth, then swatted Lin Yun in the head. Dear brother, let me beat you a little one last time. Once you've become part of the Bai clan, I won't be able to bully you anymore. Her eyes glistened beneath the lanterns, the shattered light within her irises almost too bright. Really, I've bullied you since we were children. I won't be able to get used to it so fast. She withdrew her hand from Lin Yun's face. Lin Yun mumbled, You can still beat me whenever you like. If you stopped, I probably wouldn't know what to do either. Su Chao's smile froze, the light in her eyes shuddering violently. The Lin parents exchanged a glance and made an excuse to leave. Only the two erstwhile childhood sweethearts remained in the little embroidery shop. Look what you're saying, Su Chao forced another laugh. Come here, let me instruct you. Listen up. In the future, only your wife can beat you. You can't let other girls do it. Got it? We'll pretend that's cute, you know, but it's not. Lin Yun sincerely had no idea what was going on, but he nodded anyway. After a moment, he gazed at her again. Xiao Mei, after I marry, bring Mom and Dad to the capital often. Come whenever you like and stay however long you'd like. We'll be happy to have you. He still spoke in that clumsy, almost brainless manner of his, artlessly extending his invitation. But the I in his sentences had become we. And the one included in this we, the one included in this we was no longer Su Chao, but a different girl entirely. As long as it makes you happy, he said. Su Chao smiled and looked down, rubbing her fingers together behind her back. Gumong noticed her fingertips were raw. She must have rushed to finish the bridal robe. Lin Yun was still earnestly promising, as long as you... Su Chao had been listening in silence, but at this moment, her emotions suddenly surged up. She looked up, a strange light wavering in her eyes. Her voice was unsteady. Then, what if I... Her eye caught on the bridal robe in his hands. The light in her eyes froze, then dimmed. She lost the courage to continue. Are we having another... We're having another, situation. Who, like, lead, wow, okay, I'm totally forgetting the characters' names. The guy who became the sword ghost, and, like, the girl that he was in love with, but just neither of them told each other, and we all know it ended in terrible tragedy. It just kind of feels like that vibe, because, like, what do you mean? Like, you're telling me, was she interested in him too, and she just didn't say anything this whole time either? Her eye... Oh, wait, I read that already. She lost the courage to continue. What if you what? Lin Yun asked in confusion. Su Chao fell quiet, then shook her head. Nothing. She changed the subject with a smile. Right, back to business. In the future, when I go to the Bai clan's shop in the capital to buy tools, can you give me a discount? Of course. You're right, Nina. He was the dummy. That's perfect. Now that there's someone like you in Lotus Village, our days of suffering are over. Su Chao beamed. People won't have to die because they got infected with demonic qi and can't dispel it. I'll take care of your parents. To me, they're no different from my own birth parents. Don't you worry a bit. If there's nothing urgent, don't come running back here all the time. Spend your time with young Mistress Bai. Su Chao paused. Girls like having company. Her eyes seemed to go distant when she said these words, but she quickly collected herself and dipped her head to rub again at her hands. That's all. You should get ready and go to bed early. I have things to take care of, too. I have to help carry the congratulatory gifts tomorrow. You know I've been strong since I was little. Lin Yun regarded her in silence, then said, Xiao Mei, there will be someone to accompany you in the future. Su Chao stared. Me? Forget it. Given my personality, ahaha. It won't do. And I'm so busy. I don't browse the markets, I don't know how to tell jokes, I'm too harsh, and I only think about money. Su Chao ascended the stairs as she spoke. Her voice faltered. She paused for a moment, then her steps suddenly quickened, as if she were trying to flee up the stairs. I'm busy. I'm too busy. And she doesn't say the rest of this. I only have these 2 hands, but I have to embroider the dawn and dusk, the sun and moon, the 10,000 leagues of the nation. But look, this is worth it. Not all people and lives are the same. What I have is too little. I have to struggle so hard just for this small bit. Only then can I say, I can help you when you need it. Only like this can I take care of myself, and take care of Mom and Dad. Only like this can I earn some money to spend on the bride marrying a little dummy like you, and work my fingers bloody, sewing a lavish new robe to bring a smile to her face. That's the end of the chapter. It is 4 o'clock exactly. So I'm going to take a short break. And when I come back, we are going to be on page 287 for chapter 16. These poor sad fools. Like, I get that, like, Lin Yun is the dummy in the situation. But then I'm wondering, like, was it not obvious to Su Chao that he was in love with her? Just, I don't know. They're just people gotta communicate. You, you gotta talk to each other. All right, I will be right back. Hi, I came back. I, I was looking at how many pages left to go, and I might have given myself a lot to do in one stream, especially because I'm reading a tiny bit extra, uh, extra after this. But I'm just gonna do it however long it takes. Um, yeah, so we can go over a little bit, and that's fine. That's just how it's gonna work out. Sometimes I look at the amount of chapters and I don't look as much at the page numbers, and that's a bad idea because the chapter length definitely varies. Um, so we are on page 287, chapter 16. The fragments of memory reshuffled again, flickering through events from after Lin Yun and Bai Rosha were married. Xiamei, there's a lot of malevolent qi at Lotus Village, and the people there get sick often. Do you think we could sell sickness-dispelling implements to the villagers at a slightly reduced price? Lin Yun cautiously asked Bai Rosha, who was now dressed as a newlywed woman. If you're willing, I'll discuss it with Da Ge. Why are you discussing it with him? He'll never agree. Then, I have the final word on trifles like this. Go ahead and lower the price. Doing good accumulates virtue. There's nothing wrong with that. Lin Yun's eyes went wide. Thank you, thank you. The light dimmed. The scene whirled around once more, but the next time he could see, Gumong found that the silhouettes and voices had become indistinct, like ink that had spread on damp paper. He had to concentrate to discern any words. Gumong shivered. This could only mean one thing. This section of memory had been excised after Lin Yun had died. He was the second one to see it. Whoever had taken this piece of memory was probably... He had a hunch, but he didn't follow it right away. Hazy recollections were still stuttering along before his eyes. Straining, Gumong could just barely discern the voice of the big brother of the Bai clan, talking to Lin Yun. His brother-in-law's voice was naturally low, yet now it was so deep and slow as to be terrifying. What the hell? His voice was distorted, as if coming through water. Who do you think you are? How dare you tamper with prices? This is absurd. Attendants. Come, give him a beating. A woman's voice rose in fury. Bai Rosha. What are you doing? I was the one who gave permission to lower the price. What's wrong with that? Our family's rich and our lives are easy now. Have you forgotten we used to be poor? We're no noble clan. Have you forgotten how Papa and Mama used to suffer? What's wrong with wanting to do a little good? If you think you've lost money, I'll pay you back in full. Her almond yellow silhouette threw itself toward Lin Yun. Are you revolting against your mistress? He's my husband. You're not to lay a hand on him. Master shopkeeper. The family servants looked at each other, then gazed hesitantly at the elder brother Bai. The brother waved his hand and barked, beat him. Guh, is your heart made of stone? Mistress, you're not allowed to beat him. Daga, what ill do you think will befall you if you wring a little less money from commoners? In order to ingratiate yourself with the Yue clan, you copy Yue Zhentian's every move and praise everything he does. Do you not have any of your own thoughts left in your head? In contrast to her shouts that grew more and more furious, her elder brother's voice became colder and colder. Bai Rosha, you need to get one thing straight. I am the head of this family, not you. You look down on me for licking Yue Zhentian's boots, but what do you know? Getting anything done in Chonghua requires the favor of the nobles. If we insult the Yue clan by tampering with our prices, that'll be the end of the line for us. The people who can't afford the medicine will die when their fate runs out, he proclaimed. I'm running a shop selling magical implements, not a temple of charity. If you want to live a life of philanthropy with your poor and lowly husband, you can get the hell out of this family. You. See if I'd stop you. In the ensuing scuffle, Gumong heard Bai Rosha scream. The scene before his eyes grew even blurrier. The family servants, dressed in red, rushed forward. All Gumong could see was an expanse of bloody scarlet. Only after some time did he vaguely get the gist of what had happened. In the chaos, Bai Rosha had accidentally been shoved over and kicked while arguing with her brother. She hadn't known she'd been pregnant. Crimson surged endlessly within the memory, alongside the sound of footsteps, cursing, and cries of pain. In the end, all that was left was the sound of quiet sobbing. People were stratified into social hierarchies, and further stratified within those categories. The young mistress of the Bai clan seemed wealthy in the eyes of the masses. But though their residence was large and sprawling, the Bai clan had begun as commoners too. Their lives weren't as glorious as Su Chao and the others imagined. Everyone had their own vulnerabilities, and Bai Ruxia had already done her best to lend what help she could to Lotus Village. When Gumong saw her again, she was lying in bed. Her anger and resentment at her brother, her pain and suffering from the loss of her child, all these thoughts and emotions churned within her, worsening her health until she spent her days delirious. She refused to see her brother. Only her husband, Lin Yun, was allowed to stay at her side. Young master, Miss Sue's come to the manor. The master shopkeeper's still angry and won't see any visitors. He tried to send her away, but Miss Sue refuses to leave. I came to ask for your help. Lin Yun was holding his wife's hand, his chapped lips parting as he asked blankly, "Is there something wrong with Chow Mei?" "She needs 2 doses of YUWU herb." I don't know what the name of a certain place means, but that's recognizable, right? YUWU. She needs 2 doses of YUWU herb, but Medicine Master Jiang's manor doesn't sell those herbs to commoners. She knows we have some, so she wants. But as soon as Lin Yun heard the words YUWU herb, he started laughing through his tears, harsh and self-mocking. Ruxia and I only sold some of Daga's most common sickness-dispelling implements at a discount, and yet he berated us so harshly. YUWU herb is one of the most precious medicines in Chonghua, and the doses we have on hand cost Daga unimaginable effort to procure from Medicine Master Jiang. Look at us now. Do I dare give it to her? How could I give it to her? The servant hesitated, but when he saw Bai Ruxia, unconscious and swaddled in the bedding, he closed his lips over the rest of his news. "Tell Chow Mei to go home," Lin Yun said. "It's not that we don't want to help. It's that there's really nothing we can do." "Yes." The servant bowed and retreated, closing the door behind him. At this point, the story Moshi had told Gumong seemed to echo in his ears. The innkeeper said an accident befell her family. Her parents passed in close succession. He thought she probably took her own life out of heartbreak. That family also had a son, but he got married a long time ago. Later, his relationship with the family deteriorated. He didn't even come back to the village after his parents fell sick. Ill parents, YUWU herb, Miss Su. Gumong shivered with the force of his realization. He knew what the servant had ultimately failed to say. This must have been when Lin Yun's parents were infected by the miasma, and their lives were in jeopardy. If this was how it happened, many things made sense. Su Chao had grown resentful after being rebuffed, and assumed Lin Yun had forgotten his roots after climbing higher in society. Unable to bear the deaths of her adoptive parents, her soul had been warped by hatred. She concocted a scheme to entice the heartless Lin Yun and his wife, who'd so recently suffered the pain of miscarriage, to Lotus Village to pray for a child. and then murdered the two in revenge. Yet there were still so many holes in this theory. For one, Lin Yun and his wife weren't actually heartless. Sooner or later, they must have learned of the Lin parents' passing. How could they fail to react to the news, much less be in the mood to journey to the village to pray for children? Bai Ruxia had miscarried her child not long after their wedding, and Su Chao had come at nearly the same time to ask for Gu Yue herb. Without medicine, the old couple should have passed quickly. But according to the innkeeper, Lin Yun's parents had only died in recent days. What had happened? Not to mention, if Su Chao was a mundane seamstress, devoid of any spiritual foundation, how had she set up such a supernatural scheme to kill her brother and his wife? There were too many questions yet unanswered, and several key points missing. He wanted to watch a little longer. As soon as they were uncovered, he could. The fragments of memory shuddered around him. Gumong froze, holding his breath. The sound of a Qiang flute playing a bleak and resentful melody burrowed its way through from the outside world, shattering the memories into powder. The scenes around him disintegrated. Gumong seemed to be falling into an ocean that had been scoured by a torrential rainfall. All warmth and color disappeared, the memories circling in the depths like fish scales in the water, glimmering as they sank. An invader had broken in. Ah, that's right. It was this flute. The person who dug me out and buried me beneath the peach tree. They played it often at the tree after they finished reciting the incantation. I can't listen to this. Whenever I hear it, I think about how I got framed and murdered. It makes me so mad. I'll kill them. I'll kill them. On the hill in the burial ground, the wooden figurine shrieked as it spun in circles, shouting, "Kill them," over and over. You can't kill anyone. Moshi spared it not a glance. The wooden figurine was exploding with vicious energy. It spat out puff after puff of black smoke. What's happening? That's spirit suppressing wood. No matter how deep your resentment, you can only spit smoke if you don't have sufficient cultivation. As Moshi spoke, he fished the last Thunder Curse Barrier talisman out of his Qian-kun pouch, then bit the end of the bandage on his hand and began to unwind the gauze. His wounds hadn't yet healed, and the gauze was stuck to his skin in some spots with blood, but Moshi cared not a whit. He tore it off without flinching. Barrier, activate. The talisman sparked between his fingertips, and a wall of light came down around Gumong. He reached out to the little figurine. Come here. The wooden figurine was still vomiting up black chi. What for? He can't be disturbed by that flute. Moshi shot a glance at Gumong, who was now frowning. The Thunder Curse Barrier won't hold out for long. We need to think of something. Why are you taking me with you? You think I'd leave you alone with him? That haunting melody was undoubtedly produced by their adversary, who had realized what they were up to and was playing from wherever they'd hidden themselves. Their magic was capable of influencing living and dead minds, and it was spreading through the burial grounds. The wooden figurine perched on Moshi's shoulder. It vomited more black chi as its little limbs began to shudder. A few sparks jumped from the wood. No. This flute music, it will call to mind your most hated memories. This was no ordinary musical weapon. The notes it played did not merely attack or heal. This was a demonic flute. It had only one source, yet seemed to come from all directions, making it impossible to locate the flute player by ear. I can't take it anymore, the figurine sobbed hysterically. No tears could fall from its wooden face, yet it shrieked itself hoarse, sunk deep into the hatred the ghost had felt before death. Why did you have to kill me? Why was I your victim? What did your marriage have to do with me? Don't touch me. I hate I hate. Moshi's willpower was indomitable. He could still endure it, but that Chang flute music grew bleaker. But as that Chang flute music grew bleaker, events from the past began to surface in his mind's eye, filling his heart with flames of rage. His father's death in battle, Mo Xianting's usurpation of his father's place, that half-open bedroom door, Mo Xianting's malevolent expression, his mother's dark hair spilling across the table. He fell to one knee, catching himself in a pile of dead leaves and branches with his wounded palm. Forming a heart-calming sigil, he temporarily suppressed the hatred roaring in his chest. This isn't a spell from Chonghua. He slowly closed his eyes. This is a soul-stealing technique from the Liao Kingdom. As the fourth in a line of illustrious generals, Moshi had a loathing of their enemy nation's dark magic carved into the marrow of his bones. He gritted his teeth. How could there be Liao Kingdom demonic cultivators in Lotus Village? I don't know. I don't know. I want to tear you all apart. I want to destroy all your laughing, lying faces. The little wooden figurine's voice grew sharper and shriller. I want all of you dead. I fucking refuse. I refuse. The burial ground spun before his eyes. Moshi tried to summon the Hua She whip again and again, but only a few red gold sparks flickered at the tips of his fingers before the trial vambrace restricted his spiritual energy. He could hear the faint voice Qianling Elder had sealed within the trial hoop. During a weapon trial, summoning a high-level weapon from any clan is prohibited. Moshi swore under his breath. The demonic cultivators of the Liao Kingdom had successfully infiltrated Chonghua's Lotus Village, yet all the weapons he had to hand were ordinary iron implements and a few beginner-level spiritual talismans. The notes of the Chang flute seemed to weep as they wrapped around the hill. The counterpoint of resentful sobbing grew thicker and thicker, such that it felt like a chain of shapeless shackles had fastened itself around Moshi's neck and sunk into his body. He seemed to hear a familiar, sorrowful war song beneath the whispering of the foliage, snaking its way up from the abandoned graves. Days grow shorter with the coming of winter. Moonlight spills like the sun over Kuizhou snow at night. Fifth bell dawn breaks bleak with the drumbeats of war. The starry river flickers across the three gorges. There's a footnote from the poem Pavilion Night by Du Fu. Morning scenes witnessed of battle. Moshi's vision fuzzed and blurred. In a daze, he saw a slender silhouette step forward amid the sounds of the flute music. His silver armor flashed, and his countenance was grave. Shi'ar. Papa? The man's face was indistinct in the fog. He slowly stepped closer, reaching a hand out to Moshi as ink-dark smoke billowed behind him. Give me your hand. Let's go together. The sound of the Qiang flute twined around them, so clear it seemed the flute player was right at their side. Moshi closed his eyes. No. His father had died in battle long ago. This was fake. An illusion born of the demonic flute. He didn't take that hand. Instead, he stepped back. Each stride took all his willpower, every movement drifting between reality and confusion. In the illusion, the man's face sharpened and grew sinister, eyes lengthening into slits, yet maintaining a vestige of familiarity. CR, why aren't you coming? Why aren't you? The Chang flute melody quickened as the man's face distorted, becoming that of a vengeful ghost as he charged at Moshi. His voice drilled into Moshi's eardrums like an awl of ice. Listening to me anymore. Darkness engulfed Moshi, coldness soaking him like freezing water. Why aren't you listening to me? Shi'ar, don't you feel hatred? After how they treated you, don't you want revenge? Mo Xianting defiled your mother. He disgraced you. Each syllable was like something out of a nightmare. He disgraced you. Take revenge on him. Hate him. I'll teach you. A crisp note cut through the haze, as if a blindingly bright fireball had exploded and shattered in the darkness. The fog of the illusion retreated like fleeing horses and vanished into the darkness. Dee, Lee. The music that had broken the demonic curse was still playing brightly. Moshi panted, rising from the ground. Even the little wooden figurine gradually stopped sobbing and swearing. Sitting on Moshi's shoulder, it stared blankly as it slowly returned to its senses. This is... After listening a few moments, Moshi's expression changed subtly. A swana. He was right. This was a piece played on a swana. The grieving sound of the Chang flute collapsed before the swana's brash notes. This new piece was like a tyrannical rogue charging across the hill with abandon, drowning out all other noise. At first, the flute player still struggled to continue, but it was futile. They managed 2 notes before the swana shattered them with its sharp notes, while the rest of the tune was snatched by the melody and thrown out beyond the sea. The flute had been playing a mournful battle song, but as soon as the swana came in, the tune was throttled and transformed into a vulgar little ditty. The crouching dragon and the racing horse both buried the same in dry soil. Worldly affairs hold no meaning. Hey, little girlie, turn and look at me. Gugu'll love you till eternity. Moshi blinked. If not for the desperation of their present circumstances, it would have been funny. He heard the sound of dried leaves and branches crunching behind him and turned. Beneath the glow of the late afternoon sun walked Gumong, who'd woken up of his own accord at some point. He held a simple, long-stemmed swana, the white ribbon tied to its end, fluttering in the breeze. The impertinent notes of the swana made the whole hilltop vibrate. Gumong's youthful brows quirked in an expression of disdain. He stopped with one hand on his hip and one foot propped on some unlucky ghost's grave, sounding the swana again and again in the desolate graveyard filled with dead and dying trees. I'll go with you into that draping bed canopy. The sound pierced the skies. Moshi watched Gumong, who noticed his Shidi's gaze. Gu Shishang blinked those pretty eyes. The tawny sun illuminated his handsome face, gilding his features with indolent golden light. Don't let down a loving man. Now, I have like a logistical question. Are we actually hearing these lyrics? Or is it just like the melody that he's playing is the song that everybody knows, like, has those lyrics? Because otherwise, I'm not sure how that's working. But, that's the end of the chapter. So we are on chapter 17. Yeah, I guess it's like the melody, but everybody knows what the words are. I love that that's what he chose to play. Imagine him appearing while tooting Candyman. Are you all right? Moshi asked when the demonic music was fully dispelled. Gumong smiled and caught his breath, the lips that had been wrapped around the mouthpiece shiny and red. Moshi's gaze snagged on that mouth. He quickly looked away. How could I not be? Gumong asked. Trying to show off in front of me, and that's all she's got? He wiped his mouth, his sturdy chest rising and falling as he caught his breath. If she'd held on a little longer, I would have made her spit blood. Moshi looked pointedly at the swana dangling from Gumong's hand, the white gauze ribbon fluttering. My holy weapon, Gumong explained. I saw you duel on the training field, Moshi added. Oh. Gumong remembered the incident and smiled. That doesn't count as a duel. I was just helping out my bro. You used a scimitar back then. That thing? I bought it from a weapons shop. It's not the holy weapon the Academy got on my behalf, Gumong said, grimacing as he waved his swana. This is my real holy weapon. I don't use it often. Every time I play, the other music cultivators in the academy say they can't practice anymore. They get so mad at me. He paused and sighed. Usually, I go to the backwoods to practice. I generally don't use it unless I really have to. Moshi nodded. The complaints from the other music cultivators made sense, he thought. One only needed to consider the fate of that unfortunate Tang flute player. He watched Gumong disperse the swana into motes of spiritual light that sank into his palm. That flute player is a demonic cultivator from the Liao Kingdom, Moshi said. We need to report this to the Bureau of Military Affairs. No need for that. Gumong patted him on the shoulder. You're still too green. You hear a little demonic flute music and think it's someone from the Liao Kingdom. Think again. Gumong's gaze darkened. If it were a Liao Kingdom flute player, they'd be much stronger. A novice cultivator who hasn't undergone the necessary training would have lost his mind in the blink of an eye. Of course, he quickly amended, you might be an exception. He cast a sidelong glance at the bandages Moshi had torn off to form the sigil. Then who was the flute player? Who else but the seamstress Su Chao? Gumong sighed. I need to tell you about what I saw in Lin Yun's memories toward the end. No matter what Su Chao's up to, I think we should head back to the Lin embroidery shop. Young Mistress Bai's corpse. The reason Su Chao knows Liao Kingdom curses. All of it's probably hidden in there. Gumong said, there's not a minute to waste. I'll talk as we walk. They arrived at the Lin embroidery shop in hardly any time at all. Gumong set down several layers of transparent barriers around the building to isolate it from the houses nearby. Hand on the door, he probed the energy within. No demons hiding here. He closed his eyes and concentrated. But the spiritual energy flow in this building is really very strange. Some type of energy I can't identify is surging inside. The Liao Kingdom's black magic curses, guessed Moshi. Most likely. Gumong nodded, opening his eyes. There might be some trick waiting within. Let's split up. You go in through the main doors. I'll jump over the wall in the backyard and sneak in. Be careful once you're inside. The two went their separate ways. Gumong ran along the ridge of the roof like a cat, swiftly disappearing behind one of the arched eaves. Moshi pushed open the door with a creak. The inside of the embroidery shop was terrifyingly silent. The room was the same as it had been that rainy night, with piles of brocades in the corners and veils hanging low from the ceiling beams. All that was missing was the lady of the house who had greeted them and offered them a dry change of clothes. Moshi walked slowly through silk veils like mist and smoke, his hidden weapon compartment ready in his sleeve. A quick examination of the first floor turned up nothing out of the ordinary, yet he had the nagging feeling that something was amiss. Something was different from the first time they came. He climbed the stairs to check the second floor. The wood squeaked beneath his feet. The light upstairs was dim, but Moshi didn't need to see to notice what was strange about this floor. It was the scent. The pungent smell of blood drifted out from the gaps in the doorframe ahead of him. He could hear the sound of something dripping. Moshi pressed his porcelain-pale fingers against the door. It hadn't been tightly closed, and swung open with a tiny push. Moshi saw the whole room laid out before him. Fresh blood had been used to draw a pentacle upon the floorboards, and a black wolf dog was lying... Oh, I hate this. A black wolf dog was lying in the middle of the array. Its belly had been carved open, and its heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and lungs removed and placed at the 5 points of the formation. The sound of dripping he heard was the black dog's blood. This dog looked freshly killed, while dozens of shriveled dog corpses lay piled in the corners of the room. One on the very top had a wound on its leg. The same black dog Gumong had caught on that rainy night. Swallowing his disgust, Moshi bent down to study the bloody array drawn on the ground. The writing was twisted and cramped, instantly recognizable as the ancient language of the Liao Kingdom. He could make out a few words, though he couldn't understand it fully. But there was one thing he could be sure of. That rainy night, he and Gumong bumped into Su Chao. She had been using the dog to cast this malevolent magic. She'd been bitten in a moment of carelessness and let the dog run away, which was why she stumbled out in the rain to give chase. Moshi checked all the other rooms in succession, but found nothing else out of order. He returned to the first floor, planning to meet up with Gumong in the back garden. Yet as he passed the spot where he and Gumong had sat by the brazier that day, he happened to glance toward a corner of the room. It took him a moment to register what was wrong. When he did, he came to a stop. Gumong's words from back then flashed through his mind. Miss Su is really talented. Her birds and beasts are lifelike enough. But look, those scenes from stories are so beautiful as well. Look at that silhouette on the gauze. Doesn't it look just like a graceful maiden? That night, as they had sat here by the fire, they'd admired the yellow gauze together. The life-sized silhouette of a beautiful woman had been sewn on the yellow cloth. At the time, Gumong had smiled as he said, "Even though this maiden isn't as detailed as the red-crowned I cannot speak. As detailed as the red-crowned crane on the one next to it, it's still very interesting. I wonder what such a big embroidery piece can be used for." Now that embroidery piece was gone. No, that wasn't right. That bright yellow cloth was still hanging on the beam, but that embroidered figure as tall as a real woman had disappeared without a trace. What they saw that night hadn't been an embroidered portrait at all. It had been a real woman standing behind the yellow gauze. Moshi's face drained of color as he bolted toward the back of the house. Gumong. I expected it was something like a woman was trapped in the embroidery, but not that oh, that woman is the threat and she can escape. And she was hiding in the embroidery. That did not occur to me. In the back garden, Gumong was walking among the dye basins he'd pushed over all across the courtyard. The wooden figurine sat on his shoulder, shouting, "Ah, that's right, that's the smell. The lady who moved me beneath the old peach tree and recited curses smelled exactly like this." Yep, like the dye. Su Chao smelling of dye made sense. The dozen or so dye vats were chokingly pungent, and the seamstress spent a great deal of her time working with them. It was no surprise the scent lingered on her, but Gumong wasn't pacing around to investigate the smell. He prowled through the courtyard, casting left and right. "What are you looking for?" "A person." "That Miss Su you were talking about?" "No, someone else." Gumong flipped over a pile of cloth heaped in a dark corner of the courtyard, but found only withered branches and dried leaves beneath it. He turned to lift and inspect any other items that could hide a person from view. The courtyard was too full of junk, much of it already corroded from age. Rust flaked off whenever he moved something, and dust rose in all directions. But Gumong dug through the detritus with only more fervor, as though he cared nothing for the filth. The last segment of Lin Yun's memories had been the most crucial piece of the puzzle. Before Lin Yun's death, he'd received a letter from Su Chao. In it, she hadn't mentioned the deaths of his parents. Her words had been gentle, telling Lin Yun that his parents were fine but missed him dearly, and that they were worried young Mistress Bai hadn't yet been blessed with a child in all these years. Su Qiao wrote that his mother and father were getting old and wanted to hold their grandkids. They hoped the couple would come visit the village. That big tree behind the temple, the one you liked smacking peaches off when you were little. It's probably cultivated into a tree immortal over these thousands of years. Praying to it for good fortune and children works like a charm. Why don't you bring sister-in-law back for a visit? Thus read the letter. By the time he received this missive, Su Qiao hadn't contacted Lin Yun and his wife for several years. Lin Yun knew Su Qiao resented him for sending her from the manor back then. He'd written a letter to explain, but he didn't know if the servants of the Bai clan had never sent it, or if Su Qiao simply couldn't forgive him. Either way, the two of them hadn't seen each other since that day. Lin Yun had wanted to travel back home for a long time, but Bai Rosha had a fragile constitution. She never quite recovered from her miscarriage, and her mood seemed to have permanently soured. A short walk by the lake could make her ill, to say nothing of a long journey to the countryside. Day after day, week after week, he ended up putting off the trip. When he suddenly received Su Qiao's letter, written in such a warm and amiable tone, he finally felt that Qiao Mei wasn't mad anymore. Lin Yun was delighted and went at once to his wife's bedside to tell her the news. He found Bai Rosha sitting by the windowsill with a goose-yellow blanket over her shoulders, reading the account books. These accounts contained intimate details of the business, so the elder brother of the Bai clan usually only allowed his sister to handle them. When she was young, Bai Rosha hadn't understood what was written in the books as she read them and did whatever her daga said. But now that she was older and had developed her own views, these accounts filled her with disgust. Throughout the booklet were written notes like these. Malicious sickness spirits have increased in number. There are not enough exorcism bells to meet demand. Raise prices for Huangtian copper and soul return herb. YUWU Manor will be needing large quantities of snow beauty shrub for decoration in the coming days. This is the main component of our peace and guardianship pillars. YUWU Manor cannot be slighted. Raise prices for peace and guardianship pillars until demand goes down. Bai Rosha had a kind nature. After losing her own child, her conscience ached all the more upon seeing those cruel words on the paper. In fact, the principal reason she lingered in her sickbed was her inability to loosen this knot in her heart. She felt the Bai clan had made many mistakes. They had the blood of commoners, yet they grew rich off their suffering. She saw her miscarriage and long illness as retribution from the heavens. When Lin Yun showed her Su Qiao's letter, she sighed. It's good that Qiao Mei doesn't blame us. Let's pay a visit to Lotus Village and see Mom and Dad then. How long has it been since you went? Go pack up the luggage. We don't need much, but remember to take from the storeroom some of the herbs Medicine Master Jiang gave us. The House of Mercy in the village surely needs them. But there's no way your doggo will agree. Just tell him we're going to Lotus Village to pray for a child, and that we're doing some good deeds to earn some good karma. Bai Rosha closed the book of accounts. Record all the treasures and tools we're taking. We'll pay for them from our own pocket at market price. Even if he's unhappy about it, what can he say? Lin Yun agreed, then haltingly thanked Bai Rosha again. Before the small window, Bai Rosha sat with her hair in the elaborate style of a young mistress, yet wore a grave expression. Only when she smiled did a hint of that carefree rich maiden she had once been show on her face. Why are you thanking me? Look at these jewels and silks I'm wearing. Which of them wasn't bought with wealth pilfered from poorer folk? She sighed softly. I haven't the status to do anything, nor do I have much talent of my own. I can't change my elder brother's mind, but it makes me so uneasy. Lindaga, it really hurts me. Lin Yun, clumsy as ever, didn't know how to console her. All he could say was, "Don't worry, you. You're a good person. Once we go pray at the temple, we'll have a child." Bairusha smiled and shook her head. "That's not what I meant. Anyway, these kinds of things can't be forced. Instead of praying for a child, what I'd really like it, is to have a chat with Chow Mei. You're a bit of a bore, dear. You don't understand how exhausting it's been for her." "I do. You understand just the tiniest bit." Bai Rosha pinched her slender, pale fingers together for emphasis. "She and I are both powerless women. But despite being from a poor family, she's done more good than me. She's a slip of a thing, but the ambition in her is stronger than my brother will ever possess. Her dream's just too big. She's afraid she'll be mocked, so she never talks about it, that's all." "Chow Mei has a dream. What is it?" Bairusha shook her head and didn't answer. "I didn't spend much time with her, but I could tell that she's got lofty aspirations, heavy worries, and a good deal of pride. In truth, anytime she asks me for anything, I can sense her embarrassment. She always acts like it doesn't matter, but she doesn't dare look at me. She's afraid I'll get mad, or find her a brother, or kick her out. Or find her a bother, or kick her out." I was like, what does that mean? Yeah, bother makes more sense. "So that's how it is," Lin Yun murmured. "Mm-hmm. When you really did kick her out, it must have made all her fears a reality. She doesn't know me well. She must think I made you harden your heart since you came to the Bai clan, until you discarded her and your parents like an old shoe. That's why she's been angry with you for so long. But I wrote her a letter explaining." Bai Ruxia smiled bitterly. "Didn't you grow up with her? Don't you know how proud she is? Do you think she'd be willing to read any letter you wrote, or see your face, before her anger subsided? But now she's finally sent us a letter. Give her my thanks for the tip about praying for children at the tree. We'll choose a date soon and go back to Lotus Village to visit Papa and Mama." Thus, the matter was settled. They picked a good day to go back to Lotus Village, taking with them several Qiankun pouches filled with spiritual medicines. When Su Chao greeted them, she pretended as if nothing had happened, smiling as she invited them in. That night, the couple walked into a trap that had been painstakingly prepared for many years. Su Chao laid out a feast of good food and fine drink, lying that her parents had gone to the city to buy meat, as she coaxed them into drinking a cup of poisoned wine. Lin Yun's memories stopped there. His last thoughts were of the agony in his stomach, of Bai Ruxia collapsing on the table, and of Su Chao's face, hazy in the candlelight. Tenderness, hatred, pain, and satisfaction surged across her beautiful face. "Little Linzi, sister-in-law, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice ghastly yet shaking as she said the words. "Can you hear me?" Even at the moment of his death, Lin Yun hadn't understood what had happened. In the final segment of his memory, there was confusion, bewilderment, and terror, but no suspicion toward Su Chao. Stupidly, he even tried to warn her. "It's nothing. It's just that the wine seems to have gone bad. It hurts a lot to drink. Chow Mei, you mustn't drink it. You and Mom and Dad shouldn't be so stingy. Why are you holding on to wine that's gone sour?" But these words were no more than a bloody gurgle in the back of his throat. Everything came to an end. Found it. After searching fruitlessly for so long with several spirit-sensing tools, Gumong let out a shout. The black magic compass in his hand was spinning madly. A beam of red light shot from it toward one of the dye vats in the courtyard. Gumong ran over to it and peered inside. The basin contained some murky, oily liquid, its darkness obscuring the contents within. Gumong peered into it, but made out only his own dusty reflection. As he was about to reach for a stick to dredge its contents, he felt an icy hand on his shoulder. Gumong stood motionless, In the reflection, a woman's pale face appeared before him, gazing down into the vat just like he was. Their eyes met. It was Bai Ruxia. Gumong felt his blood turn to ice as he recognized the face he'd seen in Lin Yun's memories. He summoned his narrow scimitar as he whirled, slashing at that undead Bai Ruxia. But the woman was quicker than he could have imagined. She opened her mouth and belched a billowing cloud of black smoke. Gumong hastily ducked, holding the blade protectively before his chest. In this position he was well guarded, unless Bai Ruxia could summon a third hand from behind him. Wait, behind him? The realization shivered up Gumong's spine in an instant, but it was still too late. He heard something burst from the dye vat behind him and felt hands grab him by the neck, like two cold and scaly snakes, dragging him back into the basin with a great splash. As Gumong coughed and choked, he saw Bai Ruxia staring coldly down at him. Turning his face, his horror became total. The monster who dragged him into the basin for a sensual couple's bath looked identical to the Bai Ruxia before him. Meatbun. Meatbun, what? Okay, we're on chapter 18. And it's very close to the usual ending time, but I am just going to push through, finish this volume and everything. So we're just going a bit over, kind of a lot over, but that's okay. Okay, 18-ish pages to go. Cool. The icy figure behind Gumong was choking him relentlessly, soaking his body in dye. The female corpse had terrifying strength. He couldn't breathe or even open his eyes. He struggled to find his footing, hands spasming out to form an array or cast a spell, but the corpse grabbed him around the waist and jumped back into the basin with a splash. The corpse's grip was like iron. Gumong slipped in so quickly he didn't have time to blink before he got an eyeful of dye. Yet to his shock, he felt no sting of pain. Rather, he felt the wounds he'd just sustained quickly healing. What was happening here? Images flashed through Gumong's mind like lightning. Two faces, poison wine. The Liao Kingdom's black magic. A talisman stuck to an earthen pot. The mass burial grounds. Su Chao chasing after the black dog in the rain. The Lin couple coming to visit Su Chao with a cart full of medicines, herbs they never got the chance to gift. These two women were... Gumong. Moshi's voice cut through the chaos. Gumong wrenched the scimitar around and stabbed the corpse holding him down as hard as he could. He struggled to the surface, shouting, "Smash the basin! Hurry!" The corpse seemed not to fear pain. After a long hiss, she surged back to the surface and wrapped her fingers around his neck once more. With immeasurable strength, she dragged him back into the vat. An ignition talisman flared at Moshi's fingertips. With the thrust of his hand, the talisman paper crackled into raging flames. He threw it at the Bai Ruxia standing by the vat. Ignite. Bai Ruxia stumbled back from the blast. By then, Moshi had already slapped a second talisman on the dye vat. The basin exploded with a thunderous boom as liquid sloshed across the ground. Strangely, the corpse choking Gumong seemed to lose her strength as soon as the water spilled. She fell limply to the ground, incapable of speech or movement. Gumong clambered up, panting and brushing dripping hair from his eyes. Around his throat were the purpling marks of 5 fingers. He'd been choked so hard he couldn't speak. He licked his lips and gave Moshi a silent thumbs up. Moshi came to his side and pulled out the iron sword in his Qian Kun pouch, ready to deal with any potential danger the corpse posed. Yet a fresh gale suddenly rose. The second Bai Rusha leapt over, heedless of the blade, shouting sharply, "Don't touch that shell." The tip of Moshi's sword was pressed to the corpse's throat, its cold light gleaming, yet he didn't stab downward. Bai Rusha's face distorted as she cried in fury, "Get out of here. Both of you get lost, you ungrateful bastards. I must have been blind to let you stay the night. If I knew, I would have slaughtered you two then and there. Beasts! Beasts!" Moshi stared at her face. "You're Miss Sue?" She tipped her face to the sky and shrieked a laugh, her voice warping. "What does that have to do with you? Put down your sword, take your companion, and go. If you don't, I've got hundreds and thousands of ways to make sure you die I don't think you do. Ugly." Su Chao stared with bloodshot eyes, slowly turning her head to gaze at Gumong. I think maybe Su Chao is using like a body or a copy of the body of Bai Rusha or something like that. I don't know. I too am confused. Gumong rubbed at his throat, voice hoarse. "What you learned were merely the barest bones of the Liao Kingdom's black magic. You wanted to kill us on the hill, then returned here after you failed in an attempt to kill us again. You were stymied twice, yet now you want to let us go? Do you really want us to leave, or are you out of ideas?" Hatred blazed in Su Chao's eyes, but it was soon replaced with a look of confusion. She panted harshly and didn't reply. "Miss Su," Gumong asked, "do you regret it?" This inexplicable question stabbed into Su Chao, reducing her to trembling. She seemed extremely affected, both cheeks and mouth quivering. Her eyes were fierce with upset, the whites thoroughly scarlet. "Regret?" She laughed again, like the eerie hoot of an owl. "Regret? What nonsense do you spout? What should I be regretting?" "You killed them because of a misunderstanding." "I didn't." She howled in agony, face creased with malevolence. "Why shouldn't I have killed them? They should have died. 2 bastards. A bastard couple." In the abandoned garden, she brandished hands like threatening claws. Perhaps because her uncontrolled emotions affected her magic, her face didn't look like Bai Rusha's anymore. It gradually shifted, becoming something halfway between Bai Rusha's likeness and Su Chao's original face. Thank you for explaining that, Meatbun. He took her for a while, but ended up as low as a servant. Every time I went to Bai Manor for medicine, I endured every kind of scorn. Did he ever speak up on my behalf? When Mom and Dad were about to die, I kowtowed before their manor. I kowtowed 4,900 times for the chance to see him once. By the end, my forehead was bleeding, my face was rubbed raw, but he didn't even deign to see me. His mother and father, our parents, were dying. He didn't want to hear it. As Su Chao's hatred swelled, she grabbed handfuls of her own loose hair, eyes gleaming with sickly light. "Tell me, why shouldn't I have killed him? Because he had his own difficulties? Because he didn't know what was going on? Because he lived off someone else and was ignored due to his low rank? Ha, save it," Su Chao spat. "He's been stupid since he was little. A useless waste of space." The wooden figurine had scrambled into the Qian Kun pouch in terror earlier. At this, it stuck its head out and mumbled, "I thought the person who moved my corpse was someone formidable. I hadn't expected it to be a madwoman." "You're the mad one," Su Chao raged. "I did nothing wrong." She spun to look at Gumong. "Sure, you saw his memories, but have you seen mine? Lotus Village is completely covered in diseased miasma. The villagers are desperately poor, and most of them don't have money to go anywhere else. No one gets to live long, including his parents. I thought after he married the little miss of the Bai clan, everything would improve. But what did he do? He mentioned his difficulties in his letter, that he had no choice. But who doesn't have difficulties? Who is truly free and unfettered? These words had been dammed up in her heart for too long. Su Chao shrieked them, hysterical. That's the reason he stood by and did nothing when his parents were on death's door. Because of his cowardice, Mom and Dad died in agony. They didn't even get to see their son one last time. How much do you think I hated him? Gumong gazed at her. It was already nearing dusk. The bloody light of the setting sun poured onto the brick and found its match in the crazed scarlet of Su Chao's eyes. That's why you hid the news of your adoptive parents' deaths, said Gumong. They were very sick, and the other villagers were afraid of getting infected themselves. They didn't dare get close. You've sought revenge since that day, haven't you? So what if I did? Su Chao bit out. Initially, I had no hope of retaliating against them. But even the heavens couldn't bear to see his betrayal go unpunished. They led me to the black magic spells of the Liao Kingdom. Moshi frowned. How did the Liao Kingdom's black magic spells appear in a village in Chonghua? They were probably just fragments, and not of any formidable spells, Gumong said. Such books are sometimes available on the black market. There are plenty of students at the Cultivation Academy who buy them and read them for fun. No one really dares to follow the instructions. The Liao Kingdom's techniques are all deathly malevolent, so who knows what'll happen if you work any of those spells. I wouldn't touch a book like that, even if you gave it to me for free. But Su Chao snorted. That's right. She narrowed her eyes. They were fragments, and they did come at a high cost. She bared her teeth in a grin. But even so, the techniques of Chonghua can only be used by people with a natural potential for cultivation. The Liao Kingdom's techniques aren't so picky. It doesn't matter if you're a beggar or a whore. As long as you're willing to pay the price, anyone can become a cultivator. What's wrong with that? Y'all are so right, by the way. Henry, oh fun, and that's how Taxianjun happens. Meatbun, indeed. You truly have gone insane, Moshi said at last. Insane? No, I'm more sane than I've ever been. There were all sorts of spells written on those fragments. I followed the instructions and spread the rumors about the fertility spirit for years. The people of the Bai clan are selfish and mercenary. Only by dangling what they wanted most before them as bait would they deign to come to a poor and secluded little village like this. So you were just using me, the wooden figurine shouted in anger. What else would I be doing? Su Chao replied coldly. To make people believe the tale you invented about praying for children at Lotus Village. You moved corpses and cast spells. Promoted a set of brazen lies and killed so many people. Gumong closed his eyes. Miss Su, why resort to all this? Because I wanted to, she shrilled. I told you why that rainy night. The only people who can afford to pray at the temple are rich lords and ladies. They can die for all I care. Haven't we all endured enough suffering in our daily lives? The wooden figurine found her words rather stirring. It was about to start clapping when it caught sight of Gumong's expression, and those little wooden hands came trembling down. Gumong studied her. You set up this scheme because you believed they wouldn't come back to Lotus Village for any other reason. But after you poisoned Lin Yun, you read his memories. Su Chao averted her eyes. She didn't deny it. You should have realized by now that in truth, they were only waiting to hear from you. Once your anger faded and you invited them, they would have come back, Gumong said. As for Bai Wuxia, she understood you better than even Lin Yun. She said the Bai clan's actions over the past few years weighed heavily on her conscience. Bullshit. Su Chao let out an explosive howl. Her pale face flushed red, eyes bulging from their sockets. She lied. She was a hypocrite. She was just pretending. She went mute, her bloodshot eyes glistening with tears. Filled with guilt and fully trusting, they came back with so many demon-dispelling tools and herbs, Gumong said slowly. But before they had the chance to give them to you, your poison wine murdered them. Su Chao convulsed, her jerking movements almost comical, but her face betrayed no surprise. After the Lin couple died, Su Chao must have gone through their luggage and discovered those Qian Kun pouches they'd never had a chance to give her. Bullshit. Bullshit. They were fake memories. He was coming up with lies. He wanted to trick me. Memories can't lie. How would you know? Su Chao shrieked until her voice was cracking, but her tears came streaming down. She was at once utterly heartbroken and hysterical. I was right to kill them. I was right to hate them. Everything I've done and planned over the past few years was right. The wooden figurine trembled and shrank back into the Qian Kun pouch. Gumong sighed. He couldn't wake someone pretending to be asleep. He watched the woman breaking down in the slanting light of the setting sun, her expression troubled. Su Chao rushed forward, staggering toward that limp corpse on the ground. I didn't do anything wrong. It was her fault. She didn't deserve to have so much. I've gone so far, I can no longer turn back. I'll take her place. I will. None of you can stop me. The moment she grabbed Bai Ruxia's corpse, the flesh on her body began to seethe like boiling lava. Her features became Bai Ruxia's again. But the process was clearly agonizing. She screamed with her face turned up to the sky. Her breathing came faster and faster as she mumbled incessantly, "Blood from a black dog. Blood from a black dog. I need to drink blood from a black dog." She was in a terrible state. Her face that resembled Bai Ruxia's began to bleed from her eyes, mouth, and nose as she tore at her clothes in agony, revealing an even more terrifying sight. The body beneath her clothes was a mess of rotting flesh. Moshi could no longer bear to watch, but as he stepped forward, a hand reached out and stopped him. Gumong's expression was cast in the dark gold of twilight. Moshi had never seen him so serious. His eyes fixed on Su Chao. He said to Moshi, "You can't help her. These are the consequences of recklessly using the Liao Kingdom's malevolent techniques. She's already near death. When she refused to surrender earlier, it was merely the final struggle of a trapped beast. Did you see? Everything beneath her collarbones has already rotted away. Why would she?" "You heard her say so earlier," Gumong replied. "She thought Bai Ruxia didn't deserve what she had. She must have found a permanent transformation spell within the black magic spells. She wanted to take Bai Ruxia's place after she killed her. If she'd succeeded, Su Chao would have returned to the capital in the guise of Bai Ruxia and continued the work she wanted to do." The woman in the courtyard was still screaming and laughing madly. Her face looked more and more like Bai Ruxia's, but she continued to bleed, the bright scarlet gradually turning an ominous black. "But she failed," Gumong continued softly. "Bai Ruxia's corpse energy has infected her. She's been using the blood from black dogs to slow down her own putrefaction, but it barely makes a difference." Su Chao was screaming shrilly. "No one can stop me. I'm about to succeed. I've done nothing wrong. I was right to kill them. I was right." Gumong lowered his soft lashes, breaking the shattered light in his eyes. The sunset bloodied to the ground as the woman continued to scream. "Have you figured out why we couldn't tell what was off about her earlier?" Gumong closed his eyes. "Because she wasn't dead. But after she used dark magic to try and devour Bai Ruxia's corpse, she wasn't alive either." Whether Su Chao acknowledged it or not, regret was worthless after a choice had been made. A wrongful death was still wrong. Nothing in this dreadful situation was salvageable. At last, the sun sank below the horizon. Crows cawed in the branches overhead. All that remained between heaven and earth was a hint of golden red, until that, too, was swallowed by the darkness. The withered leaves in the courtyard drifted with the wind as Su Chao, a rotting body that had been struggling on for nearly a month, was wholly devoured by the black magic curse, becoming a sacrifice at the altar of malevolent magic. That beautiful seamstress from Lin Yun's memories, the one with the burden too great on her slight shoulders, dissolved into a puddle of blood in the same garden she toiled within all her life. The wooden figurine crawled out of the Qiankun pouch, walking a melancholy circle around the pool of bloody swill. It stared for a long time, mumbling things like, "Serves you right. Who let you exploit me?" And, "Ah, to be honest, we're the same. We both lived hard lives, but you went a lot crazier than I did." And, "Living women are so scary. Dead women are still better." Oh, the wooden guy, Cucumber, is saying that. Okay. For a second, I lost track of who was talking, and I was like, what? Henry. Meatbun novel's tagline. Nothing in this dreadful situation was salvageable, but at least there's gay sex. After rambling for a while, he realized Gumong was silently examining Bai Rusha's corpse. Moshi had returned to the house and found the book of black magic spells Su Chao used in a secret compartment of the loom. Gumong flipped through it. Every spell Su Chao had used was detailed within, but there was still something exceedingly odd. According to the book, the permanent transformation spell didn't require the original owner's body. To perform it, Su Chao only had to remember what Bai Rusha looked like. There was no need whatsoever to hide her corpse in the back garden, even soaking it in healing fluid to keep it from decaying. The wooden figurine tottered over and sat down by Gumong, who was staring absently into the middle distance. "In case you forgot, that corpse lady could move," said the doll. "She was choking you just a bit ago." Gumong ignored the remarks, chin in hand, as he sank into dazed thought over this one out-of-place detail. After a time, footsteps came from behind him. Moshi handed Gumong a dilapidated wooden box. "What's this?" Meatbun. This is like... This line feels like Meatbun is like making fun of us and what she does to us. "What's this?" "Something that will make you feel worse. I found it at the very bottom of the pile of those black dog corpses. Take a minute to decide if you want to see it." Gumong took the box and opened it without thinking. 2 thin sheets of paper lay within, clearly torn out of the book of black magic spells. Su Chao probably valued these 2 pages most of all, and worried others might discover or destroy them, so she'd hidden them beneath that horrifying pile of dog corpses. Gumong picked up those 2 thin pages. Written at the top of the first was, "Holy Pharmacopoeia of Dispelling Diseased Miasma." This page was from a book put out by Medicine Master Zhang's manor, filled with the medicinal remedies that the Liao Kingdom used to dispel diseased miasma. The procedure required a few hundred types of expensive herbs. The page related that if they were refined using the proper spellcraft and scattered around an afflicted city, the miasma would be dispelled, and remain so for 10 or more years. Blue, I know, right? Gumong grimaced as he looked up at Moshi. Miss Su planned to use this method to dispel the diseased miasma in Lotus Village after she turned into young Mistress Bai. "Do you think it would have worked?" asked Moshi. "The Liao Kingdom's techniques are evil, but the remedies for dispelling diseased miasma are probably pretty effective. The better half of their territory is plagued with it, so remedies like these are widespread over there." Gumong tucked the paper into his lapels and picked up the second page. But before he could begin to read, Moshi called out, "You..." "What is it?" Moshi was silent for a moment, then shook his head. "Nothing." Gumong's gaze fixed upon that second page. Soul Connection Corpse Replacement Technique. Upon first read, nothing much came to mind. All he felt was an understandable sense of sadness. He read it again in bewilderment. Gumong was bright. There were few techniques he couldn't grasp after reading them twice. Yet he read this Soul Connection Corpse Replacement Technique a full 4 times before he looked up, heart roiling with horror. Perhaps he hadn't misunderstood at first. He was merely afraid to believe what he'd read was true. In fact, he'd had a faint sense of what this was the moment he'd seen the title. Soul Connection Corpse Replacement. Use one's own body as the sacrifice to summon the soul of the deceased. The deceased's body must be whole and unharmed, and the sacrifice must become wholly identical to the deceased by using the permanent transformation technique in order to trick the judges of the Yellow Springs. The transformation will not be immediately successful and may vacillate between appearances inconsistently. The necessary items for the spellcaster are listed below. Then came many rows of small text, but Gumong couldn't bear to read on. He skipped down to the last lines. The technique is dangerous. Immediately after it's performed, the corpse of the deceased will be able to walk and talk. As time passes, the sacrifice will experience excruciating pain that can only be suppressed by an array formed with the blood of a black dog. But the putrefaction of the flesh cannot be stopped. The sacrifice's flesh will fester as the deceased's soul returns to their original body, and then decay into pus and blood. Out of 100 attempts, less than 5 succeed. Think thrice before proceeding. Gumong held this page vacantly, feeling cold all over. Now he understood. Su Chao had originally wanted to kill the Lin couple, replace Bai Wuxia, and return to the Bai clan in her guise. But she discovered the Qiankun pouches they'd brought with them while she was dealing with their corpses and felt a sense of unease. So she'd read Lin Yun's memories. Perhaps this was the point at which her mind began to collapse. I think it's about Lin Yun maybe realizing that Lin Yun was actually in love with her too, but let's find out. Su Chao had always been obdurate and competitive. Though she refused to admit the plan she'd prepared for so many years was wrong, remorse still kept her from using the permanent transformation technique to become Bai Wuxia. Instead, she chose the dangerous soul connection corpse replacement technique in hopes of using her own life to recall from the Yellow Springs the woman she had killed through a horrible mistake. Oh no, okay. I don't know what to think now. Gumong had guessed almost all of Su Chao's secrets correctly, but he'd been wrong about one thing. Su Chao hadn't wanted to live in Bai Wuxia's place. She'd wanted to die in her stead. I guess because she felt guilt? Night fell, and clouds gathered thick over the sky. Lightning flashed in the distance. It was still the stormy beginning of summer. This was the weather that met them the day they first came to Lotus Village. Moshi found a place to lay out Bai Wuxia's corpse, then turned to Gumong, still staring at that second sheet of paper. He sighed. It's going to rain. Let's go inside. Gumong looked up sluggishly and stared at Moshi. Then he sniffed and forced himself to smile. I've just been soaked in corpse water. It'll be good to rinse off in the rain. You go on in. I'll follow in a bit. He stood up, dusting himself off as if nothing was wrong. Why don't I stand here in the rain with you? The wooden figurine suggested tactlessly. I also fell in corpse water, and now that I'm a tree person, will I shrivel if I'm not watered? It would have kept on babbling if Moshi hadn't lifted it off its feet and dropped it into his own Qiankun pouch. Taking one last glance at Gumong's back, he strode into the house. Tree person. The room was still draped with silks, as if veiled in a lingering dream. Thunder rumbled from the far reaches of the horizon. Minutes later, a torrential rain came pouring down. It would be another long, dark night. Moshi stood in the center of the room, gazing at that yellow gauze where Bai Grisha had been. That night, when they'd come in to take shelter from the rain, Su Chao must have been casting the soul connection spell. When they came, the corpse could obey commands, but it was too stiff to go upstairs. She couldn't hide it there. Yet Su Chao hadn't had the heart to make Bai Rusha stand in the pouring rain outside, so she'd ordered the corpse to stay still behind the veil, despite the risk of discovery. She wasn't stupid, but she'd had guilt in her heart, and words trapped in her throat. Suddenly, the mournful sound of a swana cut through the wind and rain outside, piercing the thunder and lightning into the 9 heavens. Yet its bright tone was lifeless, failing to settle on one song, as if the one playing didn't know what he was doing either. The tune wandered mindlessly, from Phoenix Homage to Plentiful Grain, and finally to Wedding Sedan, the notes weaving in between the sounds of rain and thunder. Only after a long time did the swana fall silent. Gumong pushed open the door. He was soaked to the skin, those black eyes shining and wet. "Is it washed away yet?" Moshi asked. Gumong looked back in confusion, unsure if Moshi was asking about the corpse water on his body or the bloody swill Su Chao had left behind on the ground. But as Moshi emerged from the shadows, coming to a stop a few steps away and gazing at him, his eyes told Gumong the answer. He sniffled, looking down and smiling bitterly. "It's pouring out there. It was all gone pretty quickly." Moshi said nothing more. After a breath, they spoke at the same time. "I want to bring their bodies back to the Bai clan myself." They both fell silent. Moshi said nothing more. After a breath, they spoke... Oh, wait, I just read that. Gumong gazed blankly at Moshi, who looked as unaffected as ever as he stood with his arms crossed, leaning against the wall. Moshi nodded. "And the spirit you sealed in the wooden puppet. After we return, let's find someone to help him pass on. He was wrongfully executed, then made resentful by the black magic Qi. It wasn't his choice to become what he is." Gumong stood stunned for a moment, then smiled. This time, his happiness was real. He brushed back the wet hair flopping over his forehead, and gave Moshi 2 very solemn thumbs up. "Okay. But before we go, I want to help Miss Su and the others finish one thing." He pointed at the first paper Su Chao had left behind, then turned to Moshi. "Would Mo Gongze agree to assist?" Although the ingredients listed on the holy pharmacopoeia of dispelling diseased miasma that Su Chao had hidden were rare and expensive, Moshi was from one of the most illustrious families in the capital. The Qiankun pouch he carried with him contained all kinds of holy medicines. The 2 of them made the medicinal powder quickly and walked out the village gate. Moshi had freed the little wooden figurine, which was allowed to march clumsily behind them. "Come on. Come. Gumong Goga will put on a show for you." Holding the packet of medicine between his teeth, Gumong spread his hands and dashed up the high archway of the gate as if it were flat ground. Stepping up onto the arched eaves, he waved at Moshi. The clouds had cleared. The sickle moon hung bright in the sky. And dawn had not yet come, though a thread of red had begun to snake along the horizon. Hello, we have an image. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Gorgeous. um, I know Gumong was punished for buying the plants, but this time I wonder if he'll be punished because he's, allowed a little more leeway in this AU. And Moshi had some of them too. So maybe it's like this time it's okay because he doesn't have to use Murong Lian's name to buy them. It just goes to show that it's like if he had been in a slightly better situation in the first place, like in the main story, then it's like, oh, so much wouldn't have happened. Yeah. Gumong took the paper packet from his mouth and summoned his Suona, Fengbo. With one hand on his hip and the other holding the instrument's stem, he leaned back and drew in a breath, then blew one long note on the Suona. Instantly, wisps of faint gray smoke came drifting from the instrument's mouth. The smoke gathered more and more densely, until it coalesced at last into a flock of pale gray magpies fluttering in front of Gumong. The birds flapped their wings, gleaming motes of light falling like dust from the tips of their feathers. Okay, now this art makes a little more sense. Be good, babies, Gumong smiled and stepped forward. Extending a hand, he let the magpie king with his trailing tail feathers land securely on his fingertips. You know what to do, Gumong told him, passing the paper packet into the bird's burgundy beak. The magpie king twittered, and Gumong nuzzled his head tenderly. Okay, go, dispel all of that diseased miasma. The gray magpie beat his wings and flew off, soaring into the sky with the medicinal powder scattering behind him. The rest of the flock streamed after, dusting powder on their wings as they filled the sky and fanned out in all directions, charging into the thick miasma that had hung over the village for too long. The miasma scattered beneath the wings of the magpies. The light of dawn grew brighter and brighter. Gumong watched the flock fly low and smiled as he raised the Suona once again, closing his eyes to play. The woven veils lie tucked within boxes of jade. The doors of the sewing shop have been open since the coming of night. Chang-e falls alongside the moon, and Junyu comes with the revolution of the stars. Lamenting how short the night before their parting, facing the empty loom after farewell, she pleads with the magpies not to fly after the bridge. This is from Qi Shi poem by YUWU. The last note sounded as the morning sun burst over the horizon. Gumong stood on the peak of the gate archway, at the bright border between twilight and dawn. Fastened with a silver clasp, his ponytail swayed in the wind, and the white ribbon in his hand fluttered, dyed a faint warm red by the first rays of sunrise as they fell upon the earth. He suddenly cupped his hands around his mouth and yelled like a little madman, shouting with coarse rural vigor, "Hey, brothers, sisters, ancestors, descendants, the sun is shining, the sun is shining." As Gumong shouted, he looked down at Moshi standing against the light beneath the archway. Gumong couldn't see what expression he wore, but he himself started smiling, the lines of his joy creeping up from the corners of his lips to those brilliant black eyes. The sun was shining. The darkness of the diseased miasma had disappeared. After the long night passed, this realm finally welcomed an expanse of splendid light. The colors of the sunrise were so beautiful. They rivaled the loveliest of flowers, so dazzling they seemed unreal, just like those dreamlike days of their youthful past. Oh, look. I've never seen this before because I've never finished. Well, I've never. Actually, you know what? That's wrong. I finished the Guardian series, but I don't remember seeing this. So I'll just say it's the first time. Wait, I need to make it so you guys can actually see it. It says Finn. Remnants of Filth. Finn. You're done. We finished! There's still a little bit more to read. But first, I just want to look at this art again, because after actually reading, like, the whole ending of that chapter, I can appreciate more what's, like, going on. And it's very beautiful. And I love it. And I love Gumong. So, thanks. We are done. By the way, y'all, I flipped ahead in this afterword for a second, and I momentarily became concerned that they had not translated something. But what they actually do is they have the whole afterword by Meatbun, and then they show the original Chinese. There's like multiple pages of Chinese. I was so confused for a second. Henry, did you read Guardian? Or no? Oh, we have to look at more art. Okay, so we're gonna look at the art, and then we're gonna read the afterword. Okay. There's art under... Wait, we looked at... Oh, art under the French flap? Oh my gosh! Okay. How... Hold on. Sorry. I did... I need to make you see this. They're so cute. That's so cute. How dare they... I wouldn't have thought to look there. Okay. Did I look at the art at the beginning? Not the fold-out one, but the, Have I shown you guys this? Because I'm not sure if I did or not. Look at them! So cute! All 7C's last volumes with French flaps have something there. Oh, Henry, so you didn't read Guardian. Okay. Highly recommend, and it's only 3 volumes, so it's like a really quick read. I did notice there is like a little bit of illustration on the inside of the front covers in like the books that don't have front flaps. But yeah, that is sad. But, so. Okay, hold on. Do I read the afterword first, or do I read the Murong Lian diary extra and then read the afterword? Y'all can tell me. I think they're both very short. Thoughts? Yeah, unfortunately, QJJ doesn't have the French flaps. It's still very pretty. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read that other extra. And where did it go? I have this window open somewhere. Up here? No? Okay. Wait. Sorry I don't have things set up to, like, show this to y'all as I read it. But where are we? Okay. If anyone is interested, I can send you this file in Discord afterwards. It's like a fan translation, and it has this extra at the end. Extra. Curated excerpts from Murong Lian's diary. Part 1. Chosen excerpt from Murong Lian's childhood diary. Chonghua calendar, X year, X month, X day. The weather is very nice. This young lord is very beautiful. I am Murong Lian, the noble with the most prestigious bloodline and the brightest future in all of Chonghua. Starting tomorrow, my mom is going to get me Shifu, so they can teach me cultivation and magic. My mom chose 20 Shifu for me. I don't know why there needs to be so many, because I don't want to call so many people Shifu, but Mom told me they are all my attendants. Haha, no wonder. Turns out everyone's here to be my attendant. Since it's like this young lord feels like it's right. Given how noble this young lord is, getting 20 attendants is something completely normal. I'm done writing my diary for today. Looking back on it, This young lord's writing style is really great. Ah, this young lord choosing to learn magic and become a cultivator is definitely a huge loss for the literary world of Chonghua. They've lost an amazingly great writer. And, writer is spelled Righther, and it says thick. And then it says here, Gu Mong, who's reading his diary, circled a spelling error. And then every entry starts with Chonghua calendar, X year, X month, X day. The weather is very nice. This young lord is very beautiful. I thought it over carefully. Even though I have a lot of talent for writing, and I'm going to be a great writer, and again, it's spelled wrong, of Chonghua. But, oh god, okay, there's a lot of spelling errors, so I'm not going to tell you all of them, but he spelled anything wrong. Of Chonghua, but anything for my nation, even death. For how could I ever bring catastrophe to my country just for my own gain? Oh. There's a footnote, but it actually linked to a website, so I don't know where that footnote went. But, okay. We won't worry about that. In order for Chonghua to dominate the world, I put down my brush and endured this pain, setting my heart to focus on cultivation. Our Wangshu manor is very rich, but this kind of wealth is a burden to me. When other people are first starting to learn, they would go take a cultivator as their teacher. In order to earn money, that cultivator might take 20 disciples at a time. In a case with one cultivator versus 20 disciples, they wouldn't be able to watch over them all at the same time, so the disciples can rest or get off task, but I can't. Here, there's 20 people staring at one of me. I can't even blink without them noticing. After a whole day, I'm really so tired. Being rich is really so exhausting. Gumong's comments. Lian, why didn't you say so sooner? If I knew, I would have helped you with some of your burdens back then. Give me some money to spend. As brothers, we ought to share in our difficulties together. Chonghua calendar, year, month, day. The weather is not great. This young lord's mood is also not that great, but I am still very beautiful. This young lord really can't bear it anymore. Those girly music cultivators force me to play chin and flute and erhu every day. I told Mom that I didn't really like those, and then Mom actually yelled at me, saying I have no intelligence, that I don't try to improve. Why is she so unreasonable? She has no idea how annoying those teachers are. Clearly, they're all my attendants, but they criticize me all the time. These lowly despicables with bloodlines lesser than this young lord really make me so mad. This young lord is the most irritated by the one who plays erhu. He's clearly a grown man, but he keeps doing lanhua gestures. There's a footnote, but I'm going to try to look at those at the end because I can't really find them quickly. I can't learn from him. What if in the future I start liking to do lanhua gestures too? What right would I have to lead the cultivators of Chonghua in shaking the skies? Henry, I pray he calls them a slur. I feel like he's doing that with the lanhua thing somehow. I feel like it's something that he sees as very girly. Or something like that. I mustered up my courage and planned to tell Mom all of this, but when I looked for her again, she was beating a bunch of disobedient slaves in the courtyard. When she saw me coming, she hefted the stick that was thicker than my arm and grumpily asked me what I wanted. In the end, I didn't say anything real at all. When looking at how she resembled a sea-scouring yaksha, I told her I decided to focus on my studies. My insincerity disgusted even myself. And there are many exclamation points. Gumong's comments. Thank goodness Madame Zhao didn't find your diary back then. You really have such good luck. Changhua calendar, year, month, day. The weather is horrible. This young lord's mood is also horrible, but I am still very beautiful. There's a little slave named Gumong in my manor. I really, really don't like him, because I think he's very stupid and always goes against my wishes. Ignore how every other word out of his mouth is calling me Xiaoju or Gongza. All of this is an act. I think he's conniving. He looks shady and rat-like. He's definitely nothing good. Moshi's comments, if you're blind, go see a doctor. What really pushed me past the limits of my endurance was that he actually sneakily played with my swing set today. In all the world, who doesn't know that's one of my favorite toys? I even gave it a title and conferred it as my concubine. Gumong's comments. I really didn't know, otherwise I wouldn't have touched your wife. One cannot get too close to a friend's wife, let alone your master's wife. Gumong, this thief. Oh, sorry. The end of Gumong's comment was, otherwise I wouldn't have touched your wife. And then Murong Lian says, one cannot get too close to a friend's wife, let alone your master's wife. Gumong, this thief. Moshi's comments, if you're insane, you also need to see a doctor. And that's the end of his comment. He played with my concubine, so of course I couldn't just stand idly by. So I very angrily rushed up to him and struck him to the ground, beat him up with my fists, made him cry for mommy and daddy, and beg me again for mercy. Gumong's comments. Being delusional is a disease. Oh, Lian, if you're sick, you have to go get it checked out. But I hadn't expected for my power to be too formidable. I actually accidentally beat him up too much. He bled so much from his head. I really didn't think he'd be this fragile when hit, even though this started because he secretly played with my swing set, and it's not my fault. I'm still the future head of the Wangshu family. I need to have a broad and generous heart, so I thought about it. Tomorrow, I'm still going to go into the city and see if there's any desserts I can get for him. After all, a master needs to have the look of one. Ah, I really am a broad-minded and tolerant, extraordinary young hero. I love myself. Gumong's comments. Ah, little brother, I love you too. The above note was cruelly blacked out by Moshi. Part 2. Chosen excerpts from Murong Lian's teenage diary. I love bunnies. I miscounted the amount of pages that today would be, but we're almost done with the main book, and there was an extra, and I was like, whatever, we're just gonna do it all today. Moshi blacked out the part where Gumong said, ah, little brother, I love you too. But no worries. Yeah, normally the stream would have ended at like 5, or if I go over a little after 5, but I was, I wanted to do it all today. Chonghua calendar, year, month, day. The weather is very nice. This young lord is very beautiful. The wind is nice today. This young lord is sitting by the window, thinking about a question that has puzzled this young lord for a very long time. Why does this young lord have to keep a diary? And if I start, it'll be years of commitment. Later on, this young lord realized, it's because of status. For people with status rivaling mine, they would have leisure time, and having leisure leads to weights on one's mind, and without people to confess them to, one would become lonely, and such loneliness would be expressed through the written word. At the heart of it, it's because this lord is lonely at the top, and upon thinking it through like this, I feel as if my eyes have suddenly been opened, as if recording such frivolous, trivial things isn't so girly and artificial. After all, normal people can't reach my level. I, Murong Lian, am unlike that rascal surnamed Mo from Shiha Manor, who just has martial power, but no understanding of romance. Moshi's comment, you've always been single up until this day. What gives you the guts to say that I don't understand romance? Bye, bunny. Nor am I like that rascal from the Yue family, thissy and chattery, fakely righteous and fakely good. And I'm even less like that scum from my manor, such an eyesore and greasy like nothing else. Moshi's comments. Complete nonsense. What gibberish do you think you're spouting? This young lord finds that no one else around my age can compare to this young lord. I'm not surprised, but it still feels a little hollow. What kind of loneliness is having no one capable of being a worthy opponent? Those with martial skills stronger than mine are no match for my intelligence. Those with intelligence greater than mine are no match for my status. And those with status higher than mine. Only my mom and the emperor have status higher than mine. So of course everything they do is right. This isn't flattery. This is an attitude of wisdom. His Majesty's fortune floods the heavens. May he have eternal longevity. Gumong's comments. I can tell that your writing has improved a good deal since your childhood. Moshi's comments. But the tone hasn't changed. Chonghua calendar, year, month, day. The weather is very nice. This young lord is very beautiful. Today the wind is nice. This young lord is sitting by the window, thinking about a question that has puzzled this young lord for a very long time. This young lord punished Gumong at the academy today. Why did that brat Moshi come find me to beg for leniency on his behalf? This really is too strange. I did that lowly slave Gumong a favor, letting him enter the academy and cultivate with me. This is the blessing that I've given him. But he actually neglects my favor and has outdone me multiple times. It really makes me disgusted. The ancients say, one cannot threaten one's master through their own achievements. Even with how peerlessly beautiful I am, I still know to retreat and concede in front of the emperor, while Gumong's just an insignificant slave, but he somehow doesn't know that a slave's glory can absolutely never exceed their master's. What's even more loathsome is the fact that, this time, during his mission, he took what he couldn't possibly take, using his own identity, just to show off and act benevolent, and actually dared to impersonate this young lord among the people. He said that he was the master of Wangshu Manor. It's absolutely shameless for a lowly slave to impersonate their master. Not breaking his bones to put in stew is already letting him off lightly. How could I possibly let go of this fury? To use another example, if I impersonated the emperor, I wouldn't find it strange if he killed me. The principle is the same. Does this young lord care whether he did good deeds or bad using my name? He should die. But I'm not allowed to kill him. And if we backtrack 10,000 steps, even if I wanted to kill him, my mom wouldn't let me kill him. In conclusion, two of us born from the same root. No, this isn't how it should be used. In conclusion, I wasn't really going to do anything to him. It was just a suitable punishment in order to highlight the difference between master and servant. Why did that brat Moshi have to cut in? It's really incomprehensible. People so overflowing with righteousness annoy me the most, as if their whole entire body is glittering with light. The more he wants to talk about rationality, the less I'll listen. The more he begs for leniency on Gumong's behalf, the more I'll go against his wishes. Moshi's comments, ... But I didn't expect that he could make such a big concession to save him. It would be one thing if he were just saying it for the sake of saying it. But here he is doing it for real? Why? Could it be that he and Gumong have feelings for each other? Impossible, because Gumong is too ugly. Moshi's comments. I'll give you one more chance. Go get your vision problems checked out, and then reorganize your thoughts. I don't mean anything else by it. I just feel that normal people would be... that normal people would all be admiring me instead. Gumong's comments. It's just laughter. Ha 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 ha. Part 3. Chosen excerpts from Murong Lian's recent diary. The wind is nice today. This lord sits by the window, thinking about a question that has puzzled this lord for a long time. Why did this lord have to come to Lin Yi and establish this damn academy? Establishing it was one thing, but why did this lord allow the two scum, Gumong and Moshi, to come teach at my academy? Gumong doesn't merit mention, stupid as all hell. He spends all his time giggling and snickering with his disciples. All his students are hopeless good-for-nothings. This lord bets that, at the Jingxi competition at the end of the year, those disciples of his will all lose to this lord's personally taught students. I'll bet a pavilion on it. Gumong's comments. Wah, but you lost. If I didn't read your diary, I wouldn't even know. Come here. Hurry up and hand over the deed to the pavilion. This time, the main subject is Moshi. The behavior and actions of that bastard Moshi is absolutely unspeakable. This lord let him teach those fire elemental disciples magic, but he's sure good letting those damn kids get into all-out fights on the drill field. Every single time there's fireballs and smoke rising everywhere, the sky filling with the color of blood, but for some reason he says that theory is always inferior to practical experience. Character development? Because at first I wouldn't expect Moshi to be that type of teacher. You know? With this shitty excuse, he and those fire elemental disciples of his have already burnt down more than 20 storage huts around the drill ground. Even though this lord is very rich, even if I were to be troubled in the pecuniary sense, I could ask Emperor Mengzi for some donations. After all, no matter how poor we are, it can't affect the academy. No matter how much suffering we endure, it can't affect the disciples. But he can't burn them down so carelessly. Such poor behavior. What makes this lord the angriest is that little disciple surnamed Nangong that he teaches. Someone of my eminence is forgetful, of course. So I can't remember what that brat's name is, but I can't forget his despicable behavior. The way he constantly thinks that his innate talents are superior. Constantly setting fires and making trouble all over the academy. But he just so happens to be one of Moshi's favorites. Moshi, the person who constantly protects shortcomings, keeps on shielding him. It's really very embarrassing. A couple days ago, this lord finally found an opportunity. While Moshi was gone, this lord summoned Nangong here to copy the rules of the academy 100 times in punishment, then had him go wipe the floors and do grunt work at the Illusions Terrace. But who knew that brat completely failed to internalize any of the academy's rules, was provoked by another disciple's words at the Illusions Terrace, got into a huge fight with him, and ended up blowing up this lord's most beloved Illusions Terrace. Afterwards, this lord grabbed Nangong and that shit-stirrer brat and sent them to the confinement room. Judging by that shit-stirrer's clothes, he was probably one of Gumong's disciples. This lord asked, and he really did turn out to be one of Gumong's disciples, surnamed Song. So Nangong and a Song got into a fight and blew up the Illusion Terrace. This lord forgot the rest of his name. After all, this lord is too rich. I just said, noble people are forgetful. Afterward, this lord deigned to converse with them. This lord found out that the reason behind their fight was actually because surnamed Song and that surnamed Nangong got into a disagreement. Surnamed Song said that Nangong's Shifu, which is Moshi, was weaker than his Gu Shifu. Because Mo Shifu always does what Gu Shifu says, and that brat surnamed Song thinks that winners are king in this world. Since Moshi yields to Gumong in everything, it definitely means that his martial skills are lower than his. Of course, Nangong was upset. They clashed, and the two disciples got into a fight on their teacher's behalf, and in the end, destroyed this lord's Illusions Terrace for nothing. This lord really did want to roll his eyes. These juniors really understand too little. But afterward, I thought, This habit of rolling eyes has to quit, just like smoking ephemera. After all, this lord was born with peach blossom sanpuku eyes. My pupils are high already. If I roll them too much and they stay there, what would happen then? So in the end, this lord didn't roll my eyes and didn't let those two juniors feel the icy indifference of the headmaster. They were let off lightly. The disciples can be spared, but their shifu cannot. This lord will definitely deduct this money from Moshi and Gumong's teaching salary. Gumong's comments. No wonder I felt that my pay was less that month. As expected, I didn't calculate it wrong. Moshi's comments. I'll give you mine. Part 4. Afterward upon reading Murong Lian's diary. Moshi. Finished it. I have never seen anyone so shameless. Gumong. When I was little, I'd often see Lian secretly and sneakily writing something at his desk. Afterward, he'd always lock it into his little chest. At the time, I was pretty curious about what he was doing. I thought he'd secretly bought some erotic booklets, and I felt rather surprised, because I didn't know why he'd have to annotate an erotic booklet. Now, the secret that has puzzled me for many years has finally been unlocked. I really did overestimate Lian D. Murong Lian, furious after recovering his diary. Do you two have a sense of shame? Just because this lord sneaked a peek at Gumong's diary doesn't mean the two of you can read this lord's diary together. This lord read Gumong's alone. The two of you read this lord's 1 against 2. Is this not shameful? This lord is never writing in his diary again. All of you better get lost. Pissing me off. Gumong, what the hell are you laughing at? Laugh anymore and I'll kick you out of the academy right now. Get out. Okay. That's the end of the diary extra. And the footnotes are just like, oh, this quote is from a poem by Li Zexun. And then there was some reference to a creature from Journey to the West. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense for me to, like, read them to you because they're, like, links to pictures to show you what stuff is. That wouldn't be very helpful, but I am gonna put this file in the Discord. Oh, the Lanhua gesture. Hold on. Let me see if I'm looking at the right one. I'm not sure. Please let this link work. Okay, I'm gonna drop a link to the image. I guess I could just put it in the chat, actually. Because now that I see it, I'm like, ah, okay. I get it. I totally get it. Yeah. Now we know what the Lanhua gesture is. Okay. I'm sorry, it is so late. We only have one more thing to do, which is read Meatbun's Afterword in the book. The English publication of Remnants of Filth is complete. First of all, thank you to the readers who've come with us on this journey. And thank you to everyone who worked so hard on the publication of this book. Thank you very much. Since I have the opportunity, I'd like to talk a little about the process of writing Remnants of Filth and my thoughts on it. Writing this book wasn't easy. At the time, I was obligated to start my next novel, so planning Remnants of Filth was a rushed process. For many reasons, my initial outline underwent last-minute changes, and so the writing of Remnants of Filth was mostly done as I was posting each chapter. In comparison to Arha and Case File Compendium, I didn't have as much time to brainstorm and edit. So even though I did my best under the circumstances, I'm not fully satisfied with the final story. This is why I rarely mention Remnants of Filth. If I'd written this novel under different circumstances at a different time, it would probably be better. Though I invested as much of my energy and ability as I could, I still feel like I didn't write it very well. The love it's received makes me feel a little guilty. Aww. Gumong and Moshi are both characters I find hard to write. I wanted to challenge myself and write a pairing I'm not used to creating, but I feel like I wasn't fully successful. I'm mostly satisfied with the characterization of Gumong's devotion to his brothers and country. But I found that when I focused too passionately on this aspect in my descriptions of him, what happened was that I realized I wanted to write more about these feelings, but that my motivation to write about his interactions with Moshi was weaker. When writing the latter part of Gumong's character arc, I found it hard to naturally incorporate Moshi, which isn't to say that Moshi isn't important to Gumong, but rather that I had trouble grasping the feeling of their interactions due to my inexperience with creating characters with their personalities. That's why the story began with a focus on plot instead of their relationship, and why Remnants of Filth basically never had any fluff. There was a tiny bit of fluff, but there was considerably less fluff than... Yeah, no, that makes sense. I hope that when I next have the energy to write characters outside of my comfort zone, I'll have better results. Ooh, this will be interesting. The character in Remnants of Filth that surprised me most was actually Murong Lian. In the beginning, I described him more along the lines of a flat side character whom everyone could hate on. But as soon as he appeared and I wrote a few paragraphs about his behavior, I felt like he came to life. I could feel how interesting he was. He didn't want to obey me as an author. I even tried to make him way more evil to see how it would look, but I eventually had to admit, his evil only made him more interesting to me. This is the part of character creation I love the most. Whenever I find myself in this kind of state, I know I don't have to worry about writing this character anymore. I become a mere archivist, recording their own thoughts, their own fate, and their own plans. I love that. Predictably, Murong Lian ended up changing his fate all on his own, veering far away from the flat, evil side role I'd assigned him, and somehow carving out a place for himself in the grand finale. What did I do in this process? I feel like I didn't do anything at all. A character coming to life on his own sounds fantastical, but I believe some of you, who also have experience writing, will understand the feeling I'm talking about. These characters do, in fact, exist. I like to call them flow characters. Like the character isn't just a character anymore. Like he has a heart of his own, one that expresses itself naturally when he's on the page. You can't disobey his will, or you'll ruin his story. I love this kind of feeling, but unfortunately, it doesn't come for all characters. And some characters I intentionally try to build out turn out less successful than those I wrote without overthinking. Every time I meet a flow character like this, I'm surprised and elated because it's the sort of fated connection that only comes by accident and can't be forced. All right, hold up, everybody. But the characters who fill me with the most regret are Chen Tang and Hua Poan. Some readers might find their story familiar, like they somewhat resemble Murong and Chu Wanning from their first life. This is because, in the original draft, they were indeed Murong and Chu Wanning from the first lifetime. Remnants of Filth was originally written to be a transmigration story, where Moshi and Gumong were both police officers, and Gumong was undercover. After something happened to Gumong, Moshi transmigrated into a novel Gumong had written. That's how the story initially unfolded. In the original setting, as the story progressed, one of the scenes would have been Gumong and Moshi arriving in an illusionscape of a different book, Arha, which I'd only just completed. I wanted to write a Wushan Palace illusion dungeon and have them realize some of Ta Xianjun's dreams and desires inside the illusion. Um, it's unclear whether this Arha is supposed to be another one of Gumong's books in the story, or if it's just like another other book, but that's amazing. Unfortunately, the editor at the time was concerned Gumong's undercover cannot speak. Was concerned Gumong's undercover cop backstory and much of his outlined story would be unsuitable for publication. I ended up having to hastily edit out the transmigration element shortly after I announced the new title. For this and all sorts of other reasons, I couldn't write Gumong and Moshi entering the Wushan Palace illusion dungeon into the new story. And as for these two missing yet important characters, I could only rework them a little. But because the structure of the story was already largely set, and so were their personalities, it wasn't possible to excise them entirely, nor change them too much from their original form. That's why the characters of Chen Tong and Hua Poan ended up imperfect. I started out wanting to write Wushan Palace Illusion, Ta Xianjun's Desires, but it very sadly turned into the original story the author wanted to write, the author's desires. I regret this a lot. In summary, Remnants of Filth was written under pressure. Both the timing of its serialization, as well as everything that happened throughout, was seriously awful. And because of the strain I was under, I was so stressed and tired my immune system collapsed, and I ended up in the hospital with shingles. In hindsight, I feel like successfully writing any story really does require a great deal of luck. Afterward, I wanted to build a pristine environment for my work, one that wouldn't be impacted or influenced by anything. A state of flow is irresistible to authors. It's a wonderful, almost out-of-body experience, and I trust that those of you with a similar interest, one you love and invest time and energy in, have also felt that kind of dissociative state. Maybe that's the state of mind most loved and treasured by all creators, and to me, entering it requires a separation from all outside influence and freedom from any restrictions or distractions. These are my hopes and wishes for all my future creations. I hope to continue writing like this forever. Sorry, I don't know why that suddenly made me really emotional. Whoa, okay. Oh, sorry. I hope I can answer my next challenge with something I'm satisfied with and create a better journey of imagination for my readers. Thank you again to all my readers, and thank you to all those who worked on this publication. Thank you so very much. I wish you happiness and joy every single day. And that was on October 9th, 2024. Damn, okay. Yeah, Henry, that is very touching. She's so sweet. That was so sweet. Um, I wanted to show y'all one more thing. We haven't looked at the little chibi art on the postcard for the last book. So we're gonna do that. Like, so here's front cover. Look. Not the wedding robes. I just yeah. Okay. Um yeah, I guess that just got me because I'm like, we're at the end of the novel and then she's like, I hope I don't have to write without or I hope I can write without any of these like restrictions going forward. And I know that she has ways of getting around some censorship stuff. Like she posted some parts of Case File on Twitter. And so I was just kind of like, I hope that she continues to be able to do that and that she doesn't like face any repercussions for her work. So that just like really got to me. Uh oh, Blue. That's why you told me not to look at it. The good ending is obvious with the chibi art. You know, I never doubted that this would have a happy ending, but that's fair. Like, technically, that's a spoiler. I just was like, things are gonna work out in the very end. I just don't know how they're gonna work out. Um, yeah, I think if I was gonna read a Danmei with a sad ending, it needs to be really short because I don't think I can handle such a long story and then it ending like terribly. Like, I just would be so upset. Um, yeah. God, I mean, well, y'all can like talk in the Discord. I feel like Blue, I remember you talking about her transmigration story idea that it was initially, and like the cop thing, and the editors thinking that she couldn't do that. I forget if you said like, was that because of like Gumong would be like an irredeemable character, or was it like, oh, we can't portray cops this way, or like something like that? Oh, it's in the spoiler channel. Okay, awesome. I am gonna be looking at that later. Anyway, thank y'all for being here for like all of this. Um, wow. um, I'm so sorry it went on so long today. I knew we were gonna go over, but I didn't realize like how long all that was gonna take. That's my bad. I should have like read some more last time or something like that. But um, yeah, this was so cool, and I really just like wanted to do the reading stream thing, and I really started like, I had some of y'all at the start, and I like went around on the internet, and I was like on Reddit and stuff being like, "Hey, I'm doing reading streams." But like honestly, I started like I don't even have enough people on YouTube to like monetize my channel. Like it was kind of crazy that I started to do this because I knew that there would not be very many people who would like find me and find my channel, but I was just like, screw it, I just want to do it anyway. Um, and it's been really cool to like have this experience. And I'm not taking a break or anything because I'm really excited to get into the next book. So next week on Monday, um, we're gonna be starting a new novel, and it's Ballad of Sword and Wine, or Chang Jinjiu. QJJ. I keep I don't know why I keep struggling with that title. I'm going to remember that title. But yeah, so new novel, an author I've never read before. Um I guess it's like political. I really don't actually know like a ton about it. So I'm really excited to get started on that next week. And so hopefully I will see y'all there. Um yeah, I'm so excited. Anyway, thank you for being here with me on this thing that I did. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Bye.